Are you though?
I
don't
feel
know.
that
Oh
way.
boy.
I don't know
I
if
feel
I'm
that
insane.
way.
I think you're pretty normal.
Oh, I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I think you're pretty
Yeah.
normal.
No, Mr. Penguin sees me a lot.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
not
know.
a slight against you, Riley, because you don't really see anyone.
No, it's true. I've never seen you, and we're sitting in the same room. So
Exactly.
riddle me that. It's like I'm
Riley
blind
just
or something.
ignores us. He just looks at us, and it's like he's looking right through us.
You would think I was blind or something.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just blindly staring into the void.
Mom should have taught you some social skills. You know,
Exactly.
I know, right?
when you're talking to people, you should look at them.
I do my best. Okay,
He
I look at
generally
their, I look in
does.
their general directions.
You do. You're generally in looking at me. I mean, that's cool. He follows voices. That's good.
Yeah.
So I guess the headphones on probably eliminates that. It's like you hear people, but you're not really sure where they're coming from.
It does create problems trying to figure things out.
But you, as with so many things, I'm never a day that I see you that I'm not amazed by something else I notice that you can do. And it's stupid. It's bad of me to assume that you're going to have difficulties. I mean, you've been doing this a long time. You have literally been doing this your whole life.
Exactly. I've been blind my whole life, so
Yeah.
I've been living as a blind man
Finally,
my
something
entire
comes
life.
out. Now they know what we're talking about.
Right. Well, it's like we were dancing around it, but we're not.
We're putting on
Riley
a
is
show,
blind,
Mr. Penguin.
but he does a great job on the radio, and he does a great job in life. But dang it, I wanted to talk about the Declaration of Independence.
Wait, are we declaring our independence from the United States today?
Well,
Finally,
Oh, thank God. I was hoping it would happen soon because, dang it, we've been holding on to this whole stupid government for so long. I think it's time to declare our independence. Oh, wait, or are we talking about a different Declaration of Independence?
No. I think there need to be some, and it's interesting. I would characterize secessionist movements as being mostly from the right politically, but that's not always the case. I mean, there have been...
California, I think, is coming from the left, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and we've got an opinion piece that I'll get into later on where they're advocating for a contingency plan for secession in all these leftist states because they are now realizing, well, they're at least talking about it. They never talked about secession, but now they are. But you have, like, I would say, your more traditional right-wing states like Florida and Texas and things like that, and Wyoming. And I think it's more on the right in New Hampshire. It's absolutely way more on the libertarian side in New Hampshire. But
yeah, I was going to say the left and the right in New Hampshire are like against the idea of independence. I think it's totally libertarians.
Yeah,
if you show up to, we had a what was it? I think it was a hearing in the State House on independence at one point, and
that was almost 2 years ago now.
Yeah,
the last one was.
And I don't know that we've packed that room, man. And then I think at one point one of the reps asked how many of us were like the Free Staters or libertarians or something like that, and I think like almost every single person in that room raised their hand.
It was pretty resounding.
Yeah.
But I can have conversations with people on the left and people on the right about secession, and they will support the idea behind it. Particularly people on the left now, they're like, yeah, getting away from out from under Trump's iron fist. That sounds good. And Republicans will say, well, I mean, Washington's just crazy. And I'm like, well, okay. So how about New Hampshire doing it? And then they're like, whoa, you're talking crazy.
Right?
You are.
But that's what we like to do is we like to talk crazy here
Exactly.
in New Hampshire. We're just radicals.
So
it's not as crazy as people think. I mean, New Hampshire led the way in independence from the British Empire.
Yes.
I understand that, Mr. Penguin, but you have to understand there are people out there that say, oh, well, we can't do that again because,
why not?
America's been existing for 250 years. That's the thing. Why not? I don't know why not. I think we should go try something new.
If there weren't secession, then there would be no United States.
Exactly.
We are born of secession.
We are secessionists
We
at
gave
heart.
up.
We gave up the crown, for God's sake. We gave up the crown, for God's sake, to form a country to survive 250 years. And you know
Okay.
what? It's time for secession again.
We did make one mistake though, and it was joining the United States.
Well, yeah.
Because
Well-
people don't forget is that New Hampshire was an independent country, and
Yes.
but unfortunately we did join. Now it was constitutional amendment was or the Constitution was of New Hampshire was revised, but I don't see why we can't just revise it to undo what we did. You know,
Why do you believe it was a mistake to join the United States?
Well, let's go into the reasons the United
Yeah.
States, all
Okay.
these United States, the 13 colonies, wrote a Declaration of Independence, Jefferson was in charge of writing these things down. I'm going to skip over the stuff that everybody always talks about, like, when in the course of human events, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all of which is very good and very poetic, and we hold
Indeed.
these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. That's great stuff.
It is.
I'm not belittling any of that. But what people don't really spend any time on is what were the list of grievances that are in the Declaration of Independence. And my question to you, the listeners, and to my co-hosts is, do these same grievances possibly apply today? Do we, the people, have the same grievances that Thomas Jefferson annotated in the Declaration of Independence? Are they still applicable today?
I think we should answer this from our perspective in New Hampshire.
Yes, we should.
Well, no. I want to open it up to callers.
Oh,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
open it
well,
to callers.
definitely we want
But
callers
I
to
think,
call in and talk
I think
about
we
it
need
as
to
well.
talk about it from our perspective in New
And
Hampshire as well.
that's why you guys are
Yeah,
co-hosts.
because we have an independence movement in New Hampshire that's been going on, and it's actually probably the most successful independence movements, that we've had in what since the Civil War, basically. So, we've actually had hearings. We've actually had multiple votes on New Hampshire independence in the state house. Texas, which is better known, its independence movement, but they can't even get a single bill, through.
I get
Get a single elected official to put forth a bill, let alone get their Congress to vote on it.
That's the
Okay.
fun thing about New Hampshire is we have people willing to do things like that.
Yeah, we didn't have one rep put forth a bill. We had 9. It was something like 8 or 9 of them put forth.
That's
a bill.
awesome. This is why I love New Hampshire.
All right. So let's go back to the Declaration. And this is the first grievance that these people had that they annotated in the Declaration of Independence. This is talking about the king. The first one. He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. So basically,
Wait, what?
he has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. These laws don't apply to me. He's refused to assent to the law.
So in other words, he's refused to assume that the laws apply to him, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, that's definitely true of our elected officials. So.
Yes. it is.
When did that ever happen?
It's happening today with Donald Trump.
I mean, let's see.
Exactly.
They
And
shut
Democrats,
the
of
shut the
course.
government down, but they're still getting the elected officials are still getting paid. It's only the peasants that are not.
Yeah, it would be good to annotate all the violations of law that are occurring right now. Quite frankly, it's too many. You couldn't list them. If we looked at the presidency under Biden, go back to any president, you can find instances of them violating the laws. They have no regard. They do when they get caught at it.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly I think plenty of examples where they just outright break the law and then don't hold themselves to the same account. And then there's other cases of they just literally there's exceptions within the law made out for them, right?
Right.
So I was giving an example of an exception carved out for them, as opposed to you're talking about actually breaking the law and then expecting not to be like tried for it, or at least to be got to get off on it, or
Right.
Immunity maybe is another example. Although that's written right into the no, that's not written into the law. That's actually created through judicial action, judicial decision, I believe is how you frame it. Basically, it's the courts that created the law, not the Congress.
Well, there is some immunity in the Constitution, too. That immunity is absolutely discussed in the U.S. Constitution, that they, like, for example, a congressman is not unable to be charged for certain crimes while he is a congressman.
Okay.
That's written into it.
Yeah.
But then you're right.
I don't believe okay, so the immunity, so there's 3 different types of immunities that I'm thinking of, but that might even be another immunity that you're talking about that's written into the Constitution.
Constitutional.
But yeah, no, some of the big ones I'm thinking of are like police officers. They can violate your rights and they're immune. As long as they believe they were doing their job, it's
qualified immunity.
Yeah, right. That's called qualified immunity. But there's other types of immunities as well. So,
well, they're quick to pull them out. Okay,
oh, yeah.
So that's the first one.
My question before we go on is where are these where is this immunity written in the Constitution?
We'll
not all of them, but the one that he's referencing might be.
Yeah. There is reference to immunities that occur when people are, quote, serving their country as congressmen and things like that. I'll do my best to read and pull up the Constitution so we can fact check.
And you know what's interesting is that might actually be a reasonable one by comparison to like others.
Oh yeah.
Like I see absolutely no reason why you would give a cop immunity as an example. But if a Congress critter has to go a little bit over the speed limit, to get to office or something like okay, like who cares, right? Like that I can kind of understand, but yeah. I mean, obviously that's not what they were thinking of in the terms of a constitutional, because at the time
we didn't have cars.
Yeah, we didn't have motor vehicles and there were no speed limits.
But it was the point. They did not want congressmen to be detained from their ability to pass laws and
to do what they were, elected to do, right?
Right. Number 2, he has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operations till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. This is basically saying, all right, I'm the king, you're not going to pass any laws about this subject. I forbid it. And I wouldn't say that this has really, been a thing the way the king did. But right now with Trump, like if a state comes and says, we want to have...
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, looking at this.
If we want to have... we want our teachers in our state to represent all forms of sexuality and can do whatever you want. We want this to be taught in our schools. The feds will definitely pull any funding, and I think in today's climate, the state would likely be sued. Do you think?
I would think so. Seems like the federal government likes to have a huge hand in your education.
I mean, I think this kind of goes back to like the idea of the United States is we're supposed to be independent countries, and basically the federal government is supposed to regulate trade between, but not interfere with what's in. And unfortunately, the feds have interfered with what's in through this thing called taxation. And there's a unfortunate Supreme Court ruling that goes back quite a ways that says, yep, this is okay for effectively the federal government to tax the citizens of different states or all of the states, and then basically use that money to bribe the Congress critters to pass laws at the state level. And of course, often they do just pass laws at the federal level that they really, at least I think a lot of people's readings of the Constitution isn't allowed even. But the U.S. Supreme Court, I guess, has allowed it, even though it shouldn't be allowed based on the Constitution's writings.
Yeah, there's all kinds of court cases throughout the years. The one Wickard versus Filborn, where the federal government claimed that they could regulate all growing of wheat, even if a guy was growing wheat on his own land and it never left the state, because it could potentially be, it could impact statewide, state-to-state commerce. Therefore, this is under our purview.
Which is absolutely absurd because it's not between the states at that point, the trade. It's literally within the state.
And that was specifically what the case said, was that even if it is within a state, then you're denying other states access to the wheat you're growing. It was Wickard versus Filburn. And that to me is what
right necessarily did the other state have in the first place to that wheat?
None.
Right. So like,
exactly.
what logic is this? This is like a fallacy that somehow there's some. No, that's not it's not even what the law says.
It was the ultimate what if, and this is why this is one of the cases before the Supreme Court that made an exponential growth in the federal government. They gave them power that they were never intended to have. And they still have it. That case went on in the 30s, I believe.
I thought the Supreme Court was supposed to interpret the Constitution, not support the executive branch and its takeover of the government.
Riley, you may be right. I mean, technically right. I mean, that was the idea, but we are far, far from it.
Well, I know that. You know that. The average listener may not know that. They may think, the Supreme Court is there to just make sure that the people don't get too powerful or whatever.
Yeah. But, what's interesting is a lot of this stuff goes back a long ways to I want to say the founding of the country and up until the 1930s where there were two groups of people or two different positions and thoughts on federal I don't know if it's like federal versus state rights but basically there's two different groups and it's kind of basically I think they were, was it called Federalist maybe even?
Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists.
Yeah, something like that. And obviously the Federalists have taken over. So
yeah, well, they won. I mean, that's why we have
effectively,
a constitution.
Effectively, unfortunately. Which is another reason we need to declare independence because we don't have what we agreed to or believed to enter into. The contract is null and void. Once you've changed the contract.
You had Hamilton representing the Federalists and writing the Federalist Papers. Many of them, others did too. And you had another small but vocal group, the Anti-Federalists, kind of led by Jefferson, who was going, no, this is not going to preserve liberty. This is not going to allow the states to be what they are, independent states, independent countries.
Yep.
And you're giving the federal government way, way, way too much power under what's being proposed in the Constitution.
Yeah, and
they were kind of right.
It's and I think we also need to bring it back a little bit more to it. So the original founding of the country is not what we have today. They what was it 13 years later, something like that.
Articles of Confederation.
Yeah. But basically, we don't have they changed it. We don't have the original government. We have a different government.
Oh, for sure.
They basically overthrew. They basically overthrew our original government.
Oh yeah.
So yes, we did have the Articles of Confederation when the states first came together after we kicked their limey asses. They did that. They kicked their limey asses, and then they came up with a document that says, okay, this is how we're going to govern ourselves without the king. It's going to be the Articles of Confederation. And I'm going to say that the Federalists had a fit because under the Articles of Confederation, they couldn't tax. It did not grant enough power to a central government. That's what they wanted, this federal government. That's their name, Federalists.
Yeah.
And that's the idea. They did not give it. Under the Articles of Confederation, we wouldn't have had a lot of the problems that we see today.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. It's kind of unfortunate in that they kind of went and had the states were very independent in the original founding of the country, and that was in some part by design, but it was also it sort of created issues in that like individual states would issue their own currency and that kind of thing, and that kind of created complexities, right? But the problem is the solution. It kind of opened the doors to the Federalist propaganda.
Who were very much about money.
Right. And it enabled them to sort of take over in a sense, I think. And I think they've just kind of kept going, over hundreds of years in that same direction. And it's like, no, there's other ways this could be done. But unfortunately, the easy argument is, the federalism, and it's not the best solution, but it's the way it's come to be and continues to go in that direction. And it's bad. It's really bad for all of us.
So you brought up Alexander Hamilton earlier. Is he the guy that's celebrated by the left for creating a strong central government?
He was, he was pretty much the architect of the idea of a very strong central government. Okay. And he was also the architect of what would soon be known as the first National Bank of the United States. The first central bank in the country, quickly followed by the second.
We were
after
warned.
that one folded.
We were warned about it too.
And then then there was the third National Bank of the United States. We tried this 3 times. Until they finally tried it in the 20th century, and we ended up with the debacle of the Fed. 603-283-6160. We're talking about the Declaration of Independence and the grievances that were filed with the king. Do they still apply? We could come up with some more.
And our solutions to these problems.
Yes.
Coming up.
603-283-6160. Give us a call. It's Free Talk Live.
Email is easy, instant, and free, and that can be real embarrassing. Email lacks the eye contact and body language you get in face-to-face conversation, or the tone of voice and other nuance you hear in a telephone conversation. Email is just words, often few words. We're all smothering in spam, so we often reply in terse fashion that's easy to misunderstand. And email doesn't cost you a postage stamp, and it lacks the deliberation time it'd take to walk to the snail mail box, so it's easy to succumb to the "oh yeah" stimulus response trap. When in doubt, don't snap back at snippy messages you get. You may have mistaken the sender's intent. And unless you're sending AOL to AOL, there's no unsend. For more tips on critical communication skills for the way things are now, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This week, the US government set a new record, the longest ever recorded in US history. On Friday, thousands of US domestic flights were cancelled or delayed. The White House ordered a reduction of air traffic. Trump administration officials said the move was an attempt to relieve some of the pressure on air traffic controllers. FSN's Iris Spitzer sent this report from Washington.
Air travelers in the U.S. are bracing for more disruptions from the government shutdown as Trump administration officials say they're planning to cut flights by as much as 10% on domestic routes. Meanwhile, there are reports that the Republican-controlled Senate is preparing for another vote on a stopgap spending measure on Friday, although a meeting by a group of Democratic senators on Thursday didn't yield any obvious change in position. The opposition party has demanded that Republicans extend health care subsidies that are set to expire, which GOP lawmakers have so far refused to do. At 37 days, the current shutdown is already the longest in U.S. history.
This week, the US Supreme Court appeared skeptical of President Donald Trump's power to unilaterally impose tariffs during a 3-hour hearing. The hearing at the country's highest court came after the president used a law designed for national emergencies to justify his sweeping economic agenda. New York City elected a new mayor this week, 34-year-old left-leaning Democrat Zohran Mamdani. He'll be the city's first Muslim mayor and the youngest in a century. Mamdani beat the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, and the former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity.
The world's richest man, Elon Musk, was this week awarded a pay packet that could be worth nearly $1 trillion. Shareholders at Tesla approved the record deal for the firm's founder, but it's conditional on Elon Musk hitting ambitious targets. City AM's editor Christian May says they won't be easy to reach.
He has to take the value of Tesla from $1.5 trillion today to $8.5 trillion in value by 2035. And he must sell tens of millions of vehicles and deploy 1 million robo-taxis and all sorts of new metrics.
Former US President Dick Cheney died this week at the age of 84. He was widely seen as the architect of George W. Bush's war on terror following the 9/11 attacks in 2001. Israeli aircraft bombed several towns in southern Lebanon on Thursday as Israel threatened wider strikes unless Hezbollah is disarmed. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is the number to call. We'd love to talk to you. We're talking about the Declaration of Independence. We are specifically talking about the list of grievances that we listed and sent to the king. We want to see if those are
Wait, you sent some grievances to the king?
Well, the country did.
Who is the country?
Thomas Jefferson actually wrote it. So we're going to call Thomas our representative.
Okay.
But first, I'd like to thank Ellen for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Ellen went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks to Ellen and everyone who supports us. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. So thank you, Ellen.
Thanks, Ellen.
And all our amplifiers.
Definitely.
So we're going to get back into... I got to cross off Ellen's name until we get her next time. All right. We're going to get back into these grievances and just see exactly what else. So we talked about...
Wait a minute. What about the solutions, especially to the money problem?
Well, we're here. We do the show to talk about solutions. Let's get through the grievances and just see if they still apply. If they've ever actually been corrected. I don't think so.
Oh, no, definitely not. But there's definitely solutions that we can take as individuals.
Oh, for sure. We can definitely do things to conquer a central bank.
Three of us have definitely taken steps to that end.
Absolutely. As have many of our listeners. And some people listening for the first time, as this may be the first time they have ever tuned into a libertarian radio show. Because really, Free Talk Live and, Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock are likely the only two that anybody has a chance of hearing about. Freedom Fiends, are they still around? I don't think
Freedom Fiends is not around. I think Michael Dean retired from that show.
There's podcasts, lots of podcasts, but not radio shows.
But not radio shows. Not that you can call in and talk about these things.
Exactly.
All right, continuing our airing of grievances from 250 years ago. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. Okay, so
English, please.
Yeah, he has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large...
not the King's English.
He has not passed laws protecting people unless these people would relinquish their right of representation in the legislature.
So in other words, the king is saying, well, I'm not willing to pass these laws that you want passed unless you're willing to submit to me.
Yes, and that's a good summary, Riley.
So it's a loyalty test, essentially.
Yes, a loyalty test. Where have I heard that lately?
Cults do loyalty tests all the time. Trump supporters want loyalty tests.
Yes, this is talked about in the White House all the time. This makes the news. They're going to be facing loyalty tests, and if they're not going to pledge their allegiance to Donald Trump, he doesn't want them around. They're going to be fired. They're going to be out on the street.
Exactly.
So loyalty tests, yeah, we still have those. This one, I don't know if it's really a big deal. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. I don't know if we really have that. I don't know.
Luckily,
What does that mean?
it means that the king is causing these people, the legislators to travel to places they're not familiar with.
And back then,
Yeah.
all right, you can get together in America, but I want you to do it in New Orleans. No, wait, everybody go to Maine. Wait, everybody go to Florida or Georgia.
And I guess this is less of an issue because of transportation has gotten better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
generally America has a more centralized meeting place for all the feds to meet.
And plus,
Washington D.C.
Plus, we
Yeah.
got Skype.
I mean,
and
I don't
we've
know.
got Zoom, and we've got all these things.
I mean, we still probably have problems in this regard, like in that, like, okay, it's easier to get places and things, but like at the end of the day, your legislature is going to be far away from you, and Washington D.C. particularly so, right? So.
He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. So the one thing Trump hasn't done yet is said, okay, I'm going to, Congress is not going to meet. Now it seems to me that I have heard something about this, or that he would not seat, or maybe it was some other president. We're going to go to the phones where we've got a couple callers. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live.
Am I unscreened?
You are now.
Oh, I got all the way through. Okay, so this is Ridley.
Okay, Ridley.
Hi, Ridley.
Welcome.
As in Dave Ridley, and I have an update on you with regard to Free State Project publicity.
Okay.
Oh, excellent.
So the lifeblood of any movement is just getting in the news, whether people are saying good things or bad things about you. You just want to be talked about.
Oh yeah.
And I have been laboring under an avalanche of inquiries from media over the last year. So 3 different documentary crews and one mainstream press reporter. They mostly were just wanting to talk to me because they saw these videos on the Ridley Report.
Oh, nice.
So, and again, it doesn't matter whether the public is saying good things or bad things, or it doesn't matter whether the press is saying good things or bad things. It's the bad thing that got them talking. So it's, if you want to think of it as bad, there's a lot of people, a lot of authoritarians complain about Grafton, New Hampshire, the Freetown Project.
Oh yeah.
Yes, where they feed the
And so
bears.
Exactly.
Because I lived there for 6 years back in 2009.
It's your fault.
I had I shot a few videos while I was there. So I get this. I'm always getting calls from documentary crews. They want to come to New Hampshire and do a story about us.
I want your video too, right?
Oh.
Yeah, they'll use the video.
Yeah.
And so that's. I mean, I haven't been that active over the last year, but even just sort of resting on my laurels. Even just I by myself am fielding all these media inquiries.
Sure.
I can only imagine what all the other Free Staters put together are dealing with.
That's great.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've definitely talked to numerous reporters over the past couple of years, and I suspect, Chris, you have, and I don't know about Riley. Yeah, you did too, Riley, haven't you?
I think I participated in a documentary with you.
Yeah, that's right. At least
one
one.
point. Yeah, at least one, maybe
and
two.
that was recently. So
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, how would you describe the tenor of these interviews, them wanting to talk to you? Are they looking to do a hit piece on Free Staters in New Hampshire? Are they trying to understand it, or are they want to find out actually what's going on because they read this crazy stuff? How would you characterize that?
Well, they all feel, fair enough and enjoyable enough to interact with. There was one that was it was really like an audio documentary, and they just sort of interviewed me, kind of like This American Life, except it's the people that do Running from Cops. I don't remember what.
Okay.
The one that they interviewed me for, I don't remember what it was called, but they interviewed me for maybe an hour and a half or something like that. And it turned out to be kind of like a podcast, except there were 3 people interviewing me. And yeah, it was very pleasant, and they seemed to understand where I was coming from. And the most recent one was a London-based crew, a documentary crew.
Oh, wow.
I guess they do some stuff for Netflix, and they wanted to come to Grafton and see what's going on there.
Good.
And
I'm trying to remember if I remember these the people that you talked to, because I may have been reached out to them as well, but I can't say for certain.
Yeah,
but that's just because there's so many documentary crews and reporters reaching out to us all the time. You guys I'm sure know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, the Free State Project is really unique, and we're a bunch of Free Staters aiming to do something entirely different that no one has ever really tried before, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, radical is definitely a choice word here, and it's an appropriate word, I think. Not necessarily in a bad way, but in a positive way.
Before I moved up here as part of the Free State Project at the time, I had perhaps talked to the press twice in my life, maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
Always about something. It was either business related or, some story, local story or something like that.
Sure.
Within the first year, I had probably talked to half a dozen reporters.
Wow.
In New Hampshire. Because that's how it is. And if you're active, you are going to get contacted by the press. And Ridley, I agree with you completely. There can be, in my mind, there can be horrible press. They may have a hit piece out on you, but at least you're talking about, they're not talking about you personally. They're talking about the Free State Project, which is a big migration of people.
Yeah. What's interesting is a lot of times when we see these hit pieces, they never even bother to try and reach out. Like, they never try and get your side. I'm thinking a lot of the stuff that happened with Crypto 6 and Ian, they never even tried to reach out to any of us. And there's tons of us here. We're easily contactable.
Yeah.
So it's pretty obvious, when they do a hit piece, it's a hit piece.
Oh, for sure. They want to make sure that
they might not do the even when they do reach out to us, it's not necessarily going to be a positive piece, but at least there was some. They tried to give some resemblance of it not being a hit piece. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, the hit pieces usually rely on somebody else's reporting, so that's all it is.
It's one-sided, or it's only the side. For example, it's only the side of the prosecutor's office.
Absolutely. They'll
put out a press release and just basically reprint it. It's just crazy.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're still getting calls, Dave.
Yeah, if you think about it, it was a hit piece on Grafton that enabled me to get all these calls and get all this free publicity for the Free State Project.
Is that because of the Bears?
There was that guy that published a book, I don't know, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago.
I can't believe how bad of a book this was and how much publicity it's gotten.
Dude, I've gotten calls from...
Yeah, he was claiming that the bear population went up because the Free Staters cut some anti-bear budget or something like that.
That's actually not true.
Yes.
Would that even be a problem? Why is that a problem?
Well, it's absolutely not a problem because and the state even said there's no evidence of a spike in bear activity.
Right. I know it's false.
None of it is.
But
I got calls from people around the world that I know who reached out to me on Facebook or social media, and they were like, "Hey, you live in New Hampshire now, right?"
Yes.
Are bears really eating people in Grafton? It was just it was the craziest thing.
I know. It's absolutely insane.
You know what's really funny too is that even in Keene, which is a lot larger than Grafton, we have bearers and elk and all sorts of stuff that come through, and deer that just run through the town every once in a while. That they have to,
crazy.
like it's like that's what happens when you live in a rural area, guys. Like this is not something that's like, oh, it has to be managed like in this extreme way. No, there's people here, and if you live in a small enough town, it might be your neighbor. If you live in a bigger town, maybe it's somebody that's employed by the city. But either way, like, it gets dealt with one way or another.
Anything else, Dave?
That is all.
Hey, I really appreciate your call. Good to hear from you. And we're going to go to, I think this is Skeeter. Skeeter, you're on Free Talk Live.
No evidence. What about Tracy Colburn, who was attacked, the first bear attack in that region for the last 200 years? Is that evidence or not? But it's not what I want to talk about.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
I want to talk about Tracy Colburn.
Who's that?
The person who got attacked by the bear, and there hasn't been a bear attack previously for 200 years. Isn't that
200? I find it very hard for anyone to say there hasn't.
Yeah, that sounds like nonsense.
Yeah.
Nonsense. Wait, what's nonsense?
You're
telling me there hasn't been a bear attack on a human in 200 years? Like,
okay, so
like,
we're
you gotta
disregarding
define that much more specifically.
Region, Penguin. I said in that region, Penguin.
How do you define
I don't
region?
think you did, and that's part of the problem.
Okay. All right. So what did you really want to call about?
Stop being dishonest. You want to interpret literally what I say when you guys twist words around to fit your narrative, just like no evidence. They mean no statistical evidence.
Okay. So you're saying that
Chris,
there had not been an attack by a bear.
Ounce of dignity and stop Riley from just laughing and saying no when he doesn't even. He just jumps on people's arguments and interrupts. Have
like
one grain of integrity. I'm presenting evidence.
You're not presenting evidence. You
okay, please present your evidence.
Tracy Colbert. She's not evidence. You know what evidence is?
I don't even know who this is. Tell me about Tracy Colburn.
She's the one who got attacked by the bear. That's been cited.
Where? When?
In that
How?
book, that
when
libertarian sphere.
So when did this happen?
I look it up.
No.
I don't. This is not what I want to talk about. Tracy Colburn. You can talk about it after you hang up on me.
We will do that.
After. No, not now. After.
I thought you were suggesting I hang up on you. I don't want to hang up on you.
At
least not yet.
Tracy Colburn, fact check me, and you'll see evidence, the actual evidence. But it's not what I want to talk about, right? I want to talk about generally how you guys keep trying to fabricate reasoning, just like you are doing now, to break the social contract.
I never signed a social contract, dude.
Let me just go through and find. There's something called implicit contracts, which are truly valid, right?
Are they?
On a train, when you know you should pay fees.
Are you?
Who's the other party in this contract? Because I want to negotiate the contract.
If you go, do you sign contracts at a restaurant when you order food, Riley?
No, it's not a contract.
No, I understand what you're saying. You're talking about a business agreement.
So if you order food,
you are making an agreement to when you place the order for the food.
But it's not a contract.
No, that's a good.
That's a verbal contract.
It is absolutely an implied contract that you are going to pay for the food that you order.
Okay.
It's implied by your actions. It's implied by your actions, Riley. Stop interrupting when you don't understand, when you haven't even studied law.
Can I just give you a compliment for making a good lucid point? It's the first one ever, so I want to congratulate you on
Congratulations,
that. Okay,
Skeeter,
that's a good example.
Hold on. So let me just talk about breaking the social contract. Stop him from interrupting. Just find that last grain of integrity. I know it disappeared when Ian died, all right?
Listen, you're talking about a work of fiction, dude.
You work of fiction. Okay, look, you don't let one party to a contract decide if it's been breached unless it's specified in the contract. Like with the federal court system. Number two, you don't let one party determine the damages to a contract breach. And if you're going to nullify a contract, it has to be a material breach. It's like if my mom didn't pay the water bill that month. You can't
enter into a contract, though, that before you were even born. I mean, come on.
Yes, you had You had how many?
No
years
other
before you started
contract would
paying
be
taxes?
valid for
16
something
years. You
that
had a-
happened before you were born, dude. I'm sorry,
A contract
but
in utero.
yeah, this is the most absurd thing.
No, that's absurd because you had basically a free trial until you were around 16 years old when you started paying income taxes, right? You had a free trial.
Do you think that that's the only thing that makes this thing invalid?
Yes, when you understand you understand the rules and you choose to stay. That's the implied action that validates the contract. And okay, number 3.
You're not allowed to leave until you're 18, man. I'm sorry, but no, this is not some sort of like acceptance if you don't leave. You try leaving, they run in, they catch you, and they kidnap you, and they take you back to your parents or your guardians or whoever.
This is a good point.
I'm not actually sure. Can your guardian? That's beside the fact, right? You still have that option at 18. Do you leave?
And where are you supposed to go if you don't agree with the contract? This is not. This is a coercive contract. This is not a valid contract. You can't put a gun to somebody's head and then make them sign something and then say, "Oh, because you didn't leave, the contract's valid."
And how about the cost of leaving?
Were they responsible for your options?
Is it reasonable? Is it reasonable?
Do you have a
I'm going to mute you because I can't get a word in.
No, I'm answering his response. Right? Stop trying to bury it because it's invalid.
Okay.
You can answer it. Just
quickly answer
it. All right. Go.
Okay.
Answer.
Is it reasonable to say when someone turns 18, they can quit interrupting me? Is it reasonable to say when someone turns 18, they can absolutely leave the United States when the cost of leaving the United States is going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees just to walk across a border?
It's $5,000 to surrender your citizenship in the United States, I believe.
$5,000?
Right, that's a starting point. That's just the starting point. That's just one.
So if you wanted to leave, okay, you'd literally have to have $5,000 at 18. So like you don't even, you're not even, not to mention the cost of the passport, not to mention all these other costs that are associated with this. There's no option to just leave.
Right. So
are you seriously letting $5,000 stand in your way of
to an 18-year-old kid?
It's a huge barrier for somebody who's 18, who's not been allowed to work, who's not been allowed to earn money. I'm sorry, but yes, that's a huge barrier for most people.
This is ridiculous, right? This is analogous to a slave complaining that he's chained up by a piece of spaghetti string, right?
It's not a piece of spaghetti string. If somebody somehow at 18 gets to the border and tries to cross the border, right, and they don't have a passport, do you know what's going to happen to them? They're going to be arrested. They're going to be detained, and they're going to be rejected. They're going to say, "Come back with a passport."
Because you need to tell the system.
That's physical coercion and violence, dude. That's not a spaghetti string.
That's simple administrative costs. But you're telling the system you're leaving, right? And they've given you a chance at survival.
I can't just write a letter to the government and be like, I'm leaving, here, and then they're going to let you leave. It doesn't work that way. It would be great if it did.
I've had more sympathy for your argument, Penguin, if you actually took the steps to leave after you had the means to do it.
But you're not being given the option of leaving. Even once you come up with the $5,000 and you actually leave, okay? Because we know people who have done this. The U.S. still goes after you. And let's just use Roger Vera as an example. Yeah. He literally did this, and they still went after him.
Guess what, Penguin? Guess what he just admitted to?
No, he didn't admit to anything except under coercion, dude. It's not. You can't make a claim like that and then ignore the fact that he was coerced into based on violence. This is like putting a gun to somebody's head. What you're doing is putting a gun to somebody's head and says, if you don't admit this, then I'm going to shoot you, and then the person obviously is going to admit to whatever you're demanding, because otherwise the penalty is death. That's literally what you've done. It's a perfect analogy because they were literally threatening to send him and put him in a cage for the rest of his life. It's a perfect analogy, dude. It's death or the rest of your life in prison. They're not that far off from each other.
This is gang violence and all this.
You're misinterpreting the gun, right? It's like me
misinterpreting the gun.
How do you misinterpret the gun?
Hold on.
They're going to take away your freedom. They can do it through a gun or they can do it through caging you. Either way, it's pretty bad.
I gave you a chance to talk. Look, the analogy is the more appropriate analogy is me at 18 not leaving the basement, not paying the rent, and my mom putting a gun to my head trying to collect the rent. Right? That's a more appropriate analogy.
Did she do that?
That explains a lot.
Look,
we're
Roger
getting
Ver,
somewhere.
You can't.
Yes, we are.
This is what libertarians do. They take in evidence and they only interpret it in a favorable way toward their narrative, right? Just like Roger Ver.
Okay.
In no alternate universe does admitting to a crime make you more likely to be innocent than guilty. Right?
Okay.
There's no.
Yeah, clearly you've never gone through the criminal system, dude. I can't tell you how many cases that I've filmed over the last decade.
Hey, Skeeter, thanks for your call.
It's coercive, it's violence.
It's always good to hear from the authoritarians.
There's a reason that 98% plead guilty, dude.
603-283-6160 is our number. Give us a call. That's 603-283-6160. We'll be back. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
One of the counselor's excuses for her behavior after call accused her of engaging in stealing. This is stealing. You're taking something from somebody who believed they owned something, and by all evidence did own something. You're taking it from them. And as you say, Mark, this goes on all across the country. They're called tax sales or tax deeds. Whenever people drop back in not being able to pay property taxes, in this case, it's because of the down economy. These people are having a tough time. At one point, she got very frustrated, and she said, well, it's not stealing because it's the law. So apparently when the law says you can take something that's not yours, it's not stealing. And now all the law is, as you pointed out, and you talked about the Constitution that's supposed to be the highest law of the land, the law is just words on paper written down by men and women. Some of them signed their names to it, but most of us, in fact 99.999% of us, never signed anything in regards to their laws.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern at freetalklive.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This week, the US government set a new record, the longest ever recorded in US history. On Friday, thousands of US domestic flights were cancelled or delayed. The White House ordered a reduction of air traffic. Trump administration officials said the move was an attempt to relieve some of the pressure on air traffic controllers. FSN's Ira Spitzer sent this report from Washington.
Air travelers in the U.S. are bracing for more disruptions from the government shutdown as Trump administration officials say they're planning to cut flights by as much as 10% on domestic routes. Meanwhile, there are reports that the Republican-controlled Senate is preparing for another vote on a stopgap spending measure on Friday, although a meeting by a group of Democratic senators on Thursday didn't yield any obvious change in position. The opposition party has demanded that Republicans extend health care subsidies that are set to expire, which GOP lawmakers have so far refused to do. At 37 days, the current shutdown is already the longest in U.S. history.
This week, the US Supreme Court appeared skeptical of President Donald Trump's power to unilaterally impose tariffs during a 3-hour hearing. The hearing at the country's highest court came after the president used a law designed for national emergencies to justify his sweeping economic agenda. New York City elected a new mayor this week, 34-year-old left-leaning Democrat Zohran Mamdani. He'll be the city's first Muslim mayor and the youngest in a century. Mamdani beat the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, and the former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity.
The world's richest man, Elon Musk, was this week awarded a pay packet that could be worth nearly $1 trillion. Shareholders at Tesla approved the record deal for the firm's founder, but it's conditional on Elon Musk hitting ambitious targets. City AM's editor Christian May says they won't be easy to reach.
He has to take the value of Tesla from $1.5 trillion today to $8.5 trillion in value by 2035. And he must sell tens of millions of vehicles and deploy 1 million robo-taxis and all sorts of new metrics.
Former US President Dick Cheney died this week at the age of 84. He was widely seen as the architect of George W. Bush's war on terror following the 9/11 attacks in 2001. Israeli aircraft bombed several towns in southern Lebanon on Thursday as Israel threatened wider strikes unless Hezbollah is disarmed. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Russia's President Vladimir Putin summoned members of the country's Security Council this week to discuss options of possibly resuming nuclear weapons tests. It would be the first such move by Moscow since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. It comes after US President Donald Trump suggested that the US would restart its own atomic tests. Ever since Daria Bundarchuk sent this report from Moscow.
Vladimir Putin gathered top officials for a Security Council meeting, instructing them to draft proposals on restarting nuclear weapons tests, a practice Russia has abandoned since 1991. The Kremlin spokesman later clarified that no deadline had been set and that Russia will act only after fully understanding U.S. intentions. Putin's directive comes days after U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement that the U.S. would resume its nuclear testing program. Russia has recently conducted tests of nuclear-capable delivery systems, including the Burevestnik cruise missile and the nuclear-powered Poseidon super torpedo. Daria Bondarchuk, Moscow.
The Chinese fast fashion giant Shein says it will collaborate with a French inquiry into the selling of childlike sex dolls on its website. The controversy came just a day before Shein this week opened its new flagship store in Paris, from where FSN's Ross Cullen sent this report.
The Asian e-commerce giant pledged on Tuesday to cooperate fully with judicial authorities after French prosecutors opened an investigation over the sale of childlike sex dolls on the platform and also rival online retailers AliExpress, Temu and Wish. The investigation is for distributing, quote, messages that are violent, pornographic and accessible to minors. Shein's spokesman in France said the company was prepared to share the names of those who have bought the products, adding that the purchase of the childlike dolls was serious, unacceptable and intolerable. And there have already been demonstrations against Shein outside the location in the centre of the French capital.
And that's the Week in Review. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Saying that he has no idea what to make of the mixed signals, area man Pete Summers told reporters today he keeps getting ambiguous text messages from local woman Haley Mueller, claiming that she's not at all interested in him.
One minute she's like, I don't want to go out with you. And then she'll mention how she has to go hang out with her boyfriend. I mean, what am I supposed to do with that?
Summers, who first met Mueller at a friend's party last month, informed reporters that the 27-year-old's increasingly perplexing text messages have left him unable to ascertain whether or not she would want to date him. He also noted that Mueller's behavior at social gatherings was equally vague.
Last weekend, we were at a party, and every time I would go up to her, she just said, "Leave me alone." Then I text her the next day, and she totally doesn't even respond. I mean, she just needs to make up her mind and tell me what she wants. She hasn't answered my last 3 phone calls, so maybe I should go over there and make sure everything's okay.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Thank you for joining us for hour number 2. We do 3 hours of radio every Saturday and Sunday. And we're glad you chose tonight to tune in. We've been talking about the Declaration of Independence and the grievances that we had with the King of England at the time. And I contend that many of those grievances we could apply today to our own federal government. And by we, I mean myself, Chris.
Riley O'Bill.
And Mr. Penguin.
Riley O'Bill. I think that is wonderful. I'm going to be calling you that from now on.
All right. Sounds good. We came up with, Bonnie and Richie and I came up with it last week.
There you go. But first, I wanted to remind you that Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. We just like saying LibertyMinded.com because it helps our friends get some business. So
exactly.
Go to LibertyMinded.com. We're going to go to the phones. I was just sort of killing time until that dump button built up, but we're going to go to somebody who I don't think we've ever dumped. Sarah in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oh, yes. Wonderful to talk with you.
Likewise.
So, we had that first round mayor election where they had 7 people running, or 6.
You guys have big fields going into these elections.
They do.
I like that.
And where is this election happening? Because our listeners are all over the world.
Oh, well, we just finished here in Albuquerque. We just finished it.
Albuquerque, New Mexico?
So coincidentally, I just finished rewatching Breaking Bad, so I'm well versed in Albuquerque.
That's right.
I know all about Albuquerque. Everything I know about Albuquerque, I've learned from Sarah in New Mexico,
right?
and from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So
This is a very interesting place. A lot of people are kind of dumb voters because Mr. Chavez, he dropped out like a month before the election, and actually 1,003 people voted for him after he canceled out the election.
this happens.
Is that stupid?
It happens. People don't pay attention.
Happens.
I think
it might also just be that people don't want to vote for the person who's opposing, so they still vote for the person who dropped out, just to show their opposition.
So I think Aria represents my favorite, uninformed voter story. Aria DiMezzo, who has been a host here on Free Talk Live. She's trans, and she's unabashedly trans, and she's unabashedly a Satanist. And she ran for Cheshire County Sheriff.
Oh yeah,
as a Republican.
Yep.
And because voters just vote, a lot of them just look at, do they have an R next to their name or a D?
Yeah.
They punched the ticket.
They punched the ticket,
out.
and she was in the general election to run for sheriff. And the Republicans had no idea, other than nobody ran against her in the primary. So she was it. They just didn't really notice. So, Sarah, when you tell me 1,000 people voted for somebody who wasn't even running, it doesn't surprise me at all.
No, this is the reason why we're winning in New Hampshire. It's my firm belief. We're winning these just because we're throwing up enough candidates.
Right.
We represent 0.01% of the population here, but yet somehow we have 1/4 of the House and 20% of the Senate.
It's
now.
because we're pretty politically active here. Honestly,
that's what I mean. If you're concerned about your electorate becoming too Republican or too left leaning or too libertarian, well, you just got to get more people to run for office, because that's ultimately what it takes.
So, Sarah,
I want to tell you the big accomplishments with the Union Sub. That polling location was the busiest polling location ever.
Nice.
And we broke the record for the mayoral election.
Is this is the one you worked at?
Right. So the ones before were 120,000. So I think we're up to 150,000, and that was the most ever turnout on record for mayoral elections.
Wow. Good job.
Well, remember, and then I take credit for this because UNIM Sub, I was at the Student Union Building like 7 times. And every time I went there, I talked to 60 students, telling them about what it's going to be voting, what we're voting for. I mean, just until I got wore out. And I did that 7 times. And I went down on election day, and there was lines there all day long. When it was 2 o'clock, there were 70 people in line. And I was told that it was like that all day long. And they were there until 8:45 p.m.
Wow.
So this year, as long as you got in line after 7, they'll take you in as long as you got in.
Right, as long as you were in line.
And
different states have different laws. Yep, that's okay. States are entitled to come up with whatever laws they want to run elections by. President Trump would like to nationalize that.
Yeah.
So and then I talked to the polling booth, and I asked him, I said, well, when is the runoff? Runoff is going to be December 9th. And they're like, we don't know yet. And then the guy told me, you get 1 day for a runoff. It's like, and I told him, what state were you from? It's like, we don't get 1 day. We get 7 whole days here. Yeah, but I'm like, well, the state I'm from, we only got 1 day for a runoff. And I said, you come from a red state. And I was.
Why do you say that? It could be a blue state. Where'd he come from?
Well, I don't know. That's typically the way they do it. The red states, like you have to get online like 6:59, like exactly at 7 o'clock. 1 minute over, they'll slam the door, shut the door, throw you off the line, and kick you out.
But that's their right. Their right to run elections the way they see fit. Sarah, I just have to ask you. You have, since I've known you, you are becoming more and more politically involved. And you're working very, very hard to get the people that you like, that support the things that you believe in, elected. Props to you. You and I probably don't agree on anything politically, because I'm very libertarian, and you're, I'm guessing, more of the
communist.
I wasn't going to say that, but more Democrat. She says
that's her choice. That's her choice word.
That's
was
okay.
Communist.
So my question is this, Sarah: why don't you run for something?
Well, a lot of people have mentioned that. I don't think I'm capable. But the person I wanted to get elected was Tim Keller, and 60% of the union students, they voted for Ubayas. Ubayas is more of a left-wing progressive, radical.
Interesting.
And then that's who the students, yeah. Out of all the 6 candidates, I guess the students are really idealistic. They'll go vote for Ralph Nader and Green Party. They believe in whatever they want. And so that it came up, Keller, the first winner, he was not the winner in UNIM or the downtown. The Ubayas got more votes, 60% of that vote. So I did not get the result I wanted from the UNIM sub. But as a whole, Keller did get the top runner. It was Tim Keller and Darren White, 1 Republican, 1 top Democrat. So,
I don't know.
You know what? One thing that I did at the campus that I never talked about candidates, and one of the kids asked me, said, "Are you from a campaign office?" I said, "No, I do not. I just want to get everybody to vote." And I just said, "I am a Democrat. It just helps the Democrats to win. That's all I care about." And actually, many of the city and the federal on jobs, you have to be non-partisan. I mean, how do you say non-partisan?
Yep.
Right. So if you for county clerk, if you work for county clerk, you could give information. You could never ever talk about which candidates to vote for or what, other than your family and your friends. So you can't be at county clerk work and after you give all the location information on the website, they go like, "Oh, by the way, Tim Keller is a big candidate. You'll lose your job."
Well,
same thing with right.
Yeah, they don't want to make it a political thing, so frequently they won't list Democratic or Republican or whatever political party you're affiliated with. It's the same way here in New Hampshire. like for selectmen and for most town level jobs, it just has your name. You're just you, because your party doesn't really matter.
But everybody knows. It's like,
Sure.
but unless but a transgender Satanist, they never cared what she really was. It just had an R behind it.
Yeah, that was
it. Yeah, most people, and then what's really interesting about the students are that they're intelligent enough to figure out what they're voting for, and they actually want to vote. Most of the young people don't want to vote. Young people are not voters, but they have enough intelligence. Yeah, you're right. But
I don't know. I mean, I run a business that is literally right on a college campus. And for big elections, they don't really care about local stuff. Presidential elections, they get all ramped up about that.
But I was told that Ubayas, that candidate, brought all the young people out. I don't know really his agenda or his policy, but he's being compared to that New York mayor who, what was his name? The one that just got
Zondavi
Bondavi, yeah, the socialist communist. He's compared to as the same policies. So
yeah,
but we're thinking that he is just far too left in the final vote, the runoff that we're going to have against the two candidates. That he's not going to win. That's what we were discussing with the other older candidates. They wanted somebody more moderate and that could beat out the Republican. That's how they felt. But all the college students went for the Ubayas.
It's interesting that the Democrats and Republicans on a national level, I mean, the right has gone very extreme in their support of Trump. And the left, judging by the election in New York, that's going to be an interesting thing to watch. In that, does the New York election drive more progressives to win Democratic seats? And it could be a sea change for the Democratic Party nationally.
And that does happen.
Yeah. Oftentimes it's just one person winning and suddenly they're like, wow, this is possible. I disagree completely with their politics, but it may be successful. Who knows? Sarah, thank you so much.
Before we let her go.
Please, hold on, wait.
Before we let her go, let's talk about SNAP. Did you get your SNAP benefits this month, Sarah?
Well, I gave up on SNAP a couple of years ago.
Okay.
All the hell, I get enough money to survive, and all the aggravation that they put you through, the red tape, it wasn't worth it for me.
Okay.
For somebody that's starving, I guess they'll do it to get that $50 or $150. It's like worth every dollar to buy their beans and rice or whatever. But I gave it up. Yeah.
Good for you.
Well, good for you. Yeah.
Maybe you're not quite the strong communist that you've given us the impression that you are.
Well, you know what? For what you get, it depends on how much hassle you want to put up with. If you're really desperate, you'll sit there and do the application or apply online, and they do that recertification once a year or whatever. If you have starving kids in your family, you'll do it. But, for somebody, I still kept my check, $960. I get my SSI check.
Whoa.
That's enough for me to get by.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a month?
Every month.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. I'm actually surprised you're able to get it by on $960 a month, but also that they give you $960 a month.
That's a lot of money.
The apartment going for in Albuquerque is like, I was told that over $1,000.
Yeah.
Are you also getting like subsidized rent on top of that or something? Like, because I can't imagine you being able to pay for both food and an apartment.
I could, but I'm just helping out Raymond living here. I help him out with rent and food. So that makes up for it. But if I was to be on my own, I would have to be on Section 8.
I see. So it's really only costing you like half that. So $500 or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I guess $500 a month is probably barely enough for food, and then rent you got covered too in that. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah. I would I met one guy that he was paying 1/10 of his income, and heading home was paying 90% of his income because he had 5 kids and a wife.
Wow.
And he just drove a taxi. So they just help him out according to his needs, and he gets EBT. So as a taxi driver, he has to pay like $3,000 a month just to get the taxi out to run it. $50 of gas. It costs him like $150. And anything else after that, he makes money.
Yeah, it's called the business.
Yeah,
he runs a business.
That's how they work.
Yeah, that's normal.
He's got 5 kids to feed. That's why they give him. He only pays 1/10 of his income for rent, and the 90% that he gets subsidized.
Would it be politically incorrect for me to suggest that maybe you shouldn't have had that many kids?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, planning. You know what's interesting is we need to have more people having kids because the population's going to collapse. But at the same time, it's like you still shouldn't have more kids than you can afford.
I agree.
Yeah.
Just why I had one.
Yeah. Right. Like it makes sense.
That's why I have 0. I can't afford kids right now.
Sarah, thank you so much for the call.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I just never dreamt of. I've always tried to not live beyond my means,
right?
Even though every instinct I have is to live beyond your means, because that's fun. But yeah, you really can't, unless you want to.
Well, you can, but with the programs that the government hands out and takes,
I just have a problem with that.
Well, you should because you've worked hard all your life, and to pay for you and your kid and your probably your wife and everything. And it's like, why should other people be taking a chunk of that?
And
I mean, you're going to need it for your retirement too, right?
Yeah,
but you're not going to have it because they took it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a conundrum. Yeah, I was wondering where that was going with Sarah because, I thought she'd be furious about the SNAP thing, but
I thought
she found the paperwork was just too much to deal with, and she gets enough through. She has Social Security, I think disability or something like that. But that's how it goes. All right, we're going to jump back in to the list of grievances just to see if any of these do apply. We're at about 3 and 3. All right. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. Have U.S. judges been dependent on the president or some other person for the tenure of their offices? Not
that I recall.
Not really. I mean,
isn't that paid through taxes?
They are. And a lot of people on the left are claiming that, when President Trump bombasts the Supreme Court for not doing something or doing something he doesn't like, that he is influencing them. I don't know. You've got a much more conservative Supreme Court than you have in many years because Trump got to choose a couple people for it, and that kind of tilted everything towards the right. But I haven't. He's been the victim of a few cases that didn't go the way he wanted. Overall, I don't think that one really applies. Okay, this is a good one. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out our substance.
Yeah, that's definitely true today.
So this is particularly timely, I think. I mean, he's sent out swarms of officers.
This is even more true today than it was back then.
Hello, ICE. You have the president calling and sending the troops and National Guard. The one thing that hasn't really been talked about, and we'll get to that in the grievances, I'm sure, is Trump saying that he wants every state to have a quick reaction force of 500 soldiers available to him so he can quell any perceived riots or protect federal buildings or keep the peace. This is a standing army. He is absolutely forming a literal standing army. I have always looked at
we already have a
the
standing
FBI.
army,
Right. We've always had one, but nobody really said that's a standing army other than us, right? We don't look at the FBI and go, the FBI is absolutely a standing army.
Hold on. I don't even think it's the FBI that I would call a standing army. I mean, I would agree they are maybe, but like I would think police. You would go as far as the military and call that a standing army too, right?
Yes.
I mean, literally speaking, that's what they meant was the army,
right.
not
it's not like
not
we call
police.
up the troops because we have to go to war. No, we just have a million man or however many people are in the armed services.
Like that,
right. All the time.
Right.
Yeah. But to me, when you have troops living and stationed in the United States, answerable to the president, this is exactly what the king did. He had his troops living amongst us, and they were there to do his bidding. I think that one's pretty clear.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. We just talked about that, and he has kept among us in times of peace standing armies. Yes, that grievance still stands. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. So the idea that the military reports to civilians, example being, the Secretary of the Navy, the Secretary of the Army, Air Force, whatever, is always a civilian.
Okay.
And they report to other civilians like the President of the United States. That's the idea.
Okay.
Has presidents put people in the military in charge of the military? That's the question. 603-283-6160 is our number. Give us a call. This is Free Talk Live.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This week, the US government set a new record, the longest ever recorded in US history. On Friday, thousands of US domestic flights were cancelled or delayed. The White House ordered a reduction of air traffic. Trump administration officials said the move was an attempt to relieve some of the pressure on air traffic controllers. FSN's Iris Spitzer sent this report from Washington.
Air travelers in the U.S. are bracing for more disruptions from the government shutdown as Trump administration officials say they're planning to cut flights by as much as 10% on domestic routes. Meanwhile, there are reports that the Republican-controlled Senate is preparing for another vote on a stopgap spending measure on Friday, although a meeting by a group of Democratic senators on Thursday didn't yield any obvious change in position. The opposition party has demanded that Republicans extend health care subsidies that are set to expire, which GOP lawmakers have so far refused to do. At 37 days, the current shutdown is already the longest in U.S. history.
This week, the US Supreme Court appeared skeptical of President Donald Trump's power to unilaterally impose tariffs during a 3-hour hearing. The hearing at the country's highest court came after the president used a law designed for national emergencies to justify his sweeping economic agenda. New York City elected a new mayor this week, 34-year-old left-leaning Democrat Zohran Mamdani. He'll be the city's first Muslim mayor and the youngest in a century. Mamdani beat the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, and the former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity.
The world's richest man, Elon Musk, was this week awarded a pay packet that could be worth nearly $1 trillion. Shareholders at Tesla approved the record deal for the firm's founder, but it's conditional on Elon Musk hitting ambitious targets. City AM's editor Christian May says they won't be easy to reach.
He has to take the value of Tesla from $1.5 trillion today to $8.5 trillion in value by 2035. And he must sell tens of millions of vehicles and deploy 1 million robo-taxis and all sorts of new metrics.
Former US President Dick Cheney died this week at the age of 84. He was widely seen as the architect of George W. Bush's war on terror following the 9/11 attacks in 2001. Israeli aircraft bombed several towns in southern Lebanon on Thursday as Israel threatened wider strikes unless Hezbollah is disarmed. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is our number. Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. We've talked to, we've had a few calls tonight. It's been fun. Been talking about the list of grievances in the Declaration of Independence and how many of them still apply. I think a lot of them. But first, are you tired of oppressive rules and moderation on the big tech social media sites? Our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, Linux, etc., etc., etc. Social.freetalklive.com. That's social.freetalklive.com. I think we're all on Mastodon, aren't we?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
I posted there a couple days ago, actually.
Nice.
I need to follow you. I don't think I'm following you.
I don't think I got to follow both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta find them.
That's the thing. We end up with so many different apps and so many different. We do more on Matrix. I do more on Matrix than I do on Mastodon, and I always kind of forget about Mastodon. But I'll be sure to toot you guys something.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm tooting all the time.
Yes, instead of tweet, you toot on Mastodon.
That's right.
So I think we had another a couple other stories to get into.
I irritate a lot of the communists on the other side on Mastodon. I imagine the same thing would happen on what's the competitor to Mastodon anyway? Twitter. Yeah, Twitter. I imagine the same thing would happen on Twitter, but
would you say I think it's X now.
Oh, X. There you go.
Yeah. I found let's see what we're going to talk about. Oh yeah, this story came out, and I'm glad to see a couple people posted it because I was following it closely. Jury acquits DC sandwich guy charged with chucking a sub at a federal agent. I'm like, okay, if that's how you're going to make a name for yourself, by throwing a sandwich at an oppressive force invading your city, that is perfect.
Exactly. That's a good way to do it.
And
make a name for
I am
yourself.
just glad he was not met with deadly force.
Yeah.
Which absolutely could have happened. They were very concerned with the sandwich, and whether it was a deadly weapon. Sean Dunn, this comes to us from NBCnews.com.
A reputable news source.
Well, arguably. Sean Dunn faced a single misdemeanor after federal grand jurors refused to indict him on the felony charge sought by prosecutors. Yes, this was up for a felony conviction. I'm glad to see that the jurors said, no, this does not meet the need. Washington jurors showed no appetite for the Justice Department's case against, quote, sandwich guy, unquote, the D.C. resident who chucked a Subway sandwich at the chest of a federal officer, finding him not guilty Thursday after several hours of deliberation. The jury... Sorry, I got to go back here. My apologies. Now I lost it. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. The jury, which feasted on sandwiches for lunch Thursday, according to a person familiar with jury lunches, deliberated the charges for several hours Wednesday and Thursday before delivering the verdict. The resident, Sean Penn, a former Justice Department paralegal, faced a single misdemeanor count after a federal grand jury rejected more serious charges over the encounter, which took place in the nightlife area of U Street in August. Border Patrol officer Greg Larimore received 2 gag gifts related to the incident: a plush sandwich and a patch featuring a cartoon of Dunn throwing a sandwich with the words, quote, felony footlong, unquote, which the defense team argued showed this was not a serious threat to his life.
Yeah,
Larimore
sandwich isn't going to kill you if you throw it at somebody.
Yeah, on what planet is that some sort of threat, like violent threat?
Well, in this world today, yes. A grand jury can indict a ham sandwich. They could certainly send charges up if you throw one. Larimore had testified that the sandwich, quote, exploded all over, unquote, his chest, and complained he could smell mustard and onions.
Did it actually explode?
Probably.
That's what I would be my next question as a lawyer, because, like, I mean, come on, we obviously know they don't explode.
Your Honor,
it's not an explosive ingredient.
Exploded all over my chest. Yeah, this is just. But a photo showed that the sandwich was still in the wrapper on the ground after it hit Larimore in his bulletproof vest. Good thing he was wearing a vest.
I know, right?
Images of Dunn became a symbol of resistance to the Trump administration in Washington, with murals popping up on walls depicting a man throwing a sandwich and with people placing sandwiches in the hands of giant skeletons for Halloween. Oh, wow. I think, here we go. Artwork depicting former DOJ employee Sean Charles Dunn is displayed at a restaurant. It looks like a Banksy picture, but the guy is throwing a sandwich. Sean Dunn told NBC it was, quote, heartening, unquote, to get so much support from his fellow Washingtonians, but that he is, quote, not comfortable, unquote, with the, quote, hero, unquote, narrative. Asked if he thought residents who lacked full representation in Congress were registering their dissent of the federal takeover of the city to find him not guilty, he said, perhaps. Grand jurors in Washington have rejected several cases against defendants that were brought by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia which under the Trump administration has been run by two Trump loyalists, first Ed Martin and now Jeanine Pirro. She's on Fox News, so I guess she's on the bench in D.C. now. Familiar with her?
Nope. No.
Yeah, I think she was a former judge, and she left Fox News to become a judge once again.
Okay.
Quote, as always, we accept a jury's verdict. That is the system within which we function. However, law enforcement should never be subjected to assault, no matter how minor. Even
Give me a
children
break. It's
know.
part of their job.
It is. I mean,
like
they're
their job
assaulting
description
you.
includes it. Why are we getting upset over this? This is ridiculous.
It was a sandwich, damn it. What are you belittling the fact that this man was attacked violently by a sandwich?
Sorry, but a sandwich is not violent.
It was a foot long, Chris.
It's just a foot-long sandwich.
There's this idea of like injury when there comes to violence, and there was no injury, or it was de minimis, which is basically a legal term for meaning it was of no consequence.
Well,
even if it happened.
As always, we accept jury's verdict. No matter how minor, even children know that when they are angry, they are not allowed to throw objects at one another, Pirro said in a written statement.
That might be, but it doesn't change the fact that there was no violence here.
In closing arguments, defense attorney Sabrina Schroff argued that the sandwich could not and did not cause harm. This case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is about a sandwich, she said.
Right?
I love it, but I love the fact I'm just really glad. I mean, DC is kind of in turmoil. Never before.
I mean, the most important thing on the agenda is sandwiches.
Well, I think the most important thing on the agenda is President Trump has declared himself the martial leader of the District of Columbia, and
you mean the District of Criminals?
Call it whatever you want.
Okay.
I've never, I think yours is more apropos.
Yes.
Sitting presidents don't usually say that they're going to occupy DC. They are going to eradicate all the crime, and the police will report directly to me and things like this that Trump has done and that Trump is saying, and the fact that he appointed loyalist Jeanine Pirro, who is a Fox News analyst, I mean, to be on the bench for the district, it just kind of, I just sit here and go, this is crazy. I never lived in D.C., but I lived close to it for a lot of years.
Wow, you're the second person who's told me this, and I've just always been amazed.
Like, why would you live close to D.C.?
Yeah, it just seems crazy to me.
It is, because Uncle Sam sent me there, and that's where I ended up.
What does Uncle Sam look like?
I just go by the pictures, like tall guy, big hat, big gray beard.
All right, I'm just wondering what Uncle Sam looks like. I hear him referenced. I want to know what he looks like.
Well, Riley, I mean, how could I? He's very tall. He has a, I can't even say an Abe Lincoln-like hat.
No.
A very tall hat.
Okay.
He has a gray beard, and he wears a red, white, and blue suit.
All right.
There. That's about as much as I can offer. It's not really a pleasant area to live in. I've been to DC a million times, and there are aspects of it that are kind of cool. But in general, I would never live there. Never, ever, ever. Let's see what else we have. I had a couple things that I thought were kind of interesting. Oh, yeah, this was sort of interesting. And we're going to get into stories that Riley and Chris Penguin brought in also. This is evidently news. This comes to us from PBS. Advice is being changed to feed babies peanuts early and often to help thousands of kids avoid allergies.
So we're exposing kids to peanuts so they can get their bodies to understand what peanuts are early enough so they don't have allergies. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, a decade after a landmark study proved that feeding peanut products to young babies could prevent development of life-threatening allergies, new researchers find the change has made a big difference in the world. Okay, so basically, when I was a kid, we grew up with peanuts. Peanuts were just there. I didn't even think about peanuts. I didn't think about peanut butter. I know that I was given peanut butter sandwiches when I was very young and didn't really think about it. And then I believe it was maybe the 80s and 90s, I suddenly started hearing about people with peanut allergies.
Yeah, I didn't hear about peanut allergies until like probably I was in high school, and that was almost like 2000. And when I was in elementary school, peanut allergies, like I think there was maybe one kid in the entire school that had a peanut allergy.
And we had like one person who had a lactose or a milk allergy. I mean, it was so rare.
Very. And then it became like super common.
So in the case of peanuts, and I'm not even going to try to quote dates, but I'm going to say it was in the 80s or 90s that pediatricians there had been some case of a very young child dying of a peanut allergy. This is how these things always start.
Yep. And then they freak out, and then they go on
freak
overboard.
out, and they say, "Well,
nobody can have peanut butter sandwiches.
Know what we
in
need
school.
to do? We have to keep peanuts away from small children, so small children don't risk dying of peanut allergies." So they did that.
Yeah.
And I remember when my son was growing up, this was the time when they were advising, don't give your kid peanuts. I mean, they could die. And what happens,
overreaction.
You create a whole generation of children that have never been exposed to a very common substance because they might die from unknown peanut allergy. They then develop a peanut allergy because they've never been exposed to it. It's just insanity, and this is typical of what adverse consequences occur from things that you try to centralize something. You need to say that everyone must do this because this happened to this one or two people.
I was always amazed that schools were banning peanuts and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like kids couldn't bring them in because there's a kid in the school, or there's a couple of kids in the school that have peanut allergies. So back in the day, if you had a peanut allergy, when I was in elementary school, the kid just wouldn't eat the peanuts, right?
That's how it's supposed to be handled. But no, we got to curtail everybody else's behavior.
It's such an overreaction. And I get that this is something that you could be deadly allergic to, but my brother's got something he's deadly allergic to too, potentially, but he keeps an EpiPen, and they're just things you could do as a precaution. But it's like that doesn't mean everybody else should stop being allowed to have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
And the idea that some group of people was weakened by this government recommendation.
Oh yeah.
And are going to have to live with the fact that they have to watch what they eat, and they have to make sure that they are not anywhere near peanuts. It's crazy. Peanut allergies began to decline in the U.S. after guidance first issued in 2015 upended medical practice by recommending introducing the allergen to infants starting as early as 4 months.
2015. Wow, that's just crazy to me, because that means it took them at least 15 years from the time that people started doing feeding their kids little bits of peanut, and this is with kids with the peanut allergies.
Yeah,
they've been identified as having a peanut allergy. But what parents would do is they'd give them just a tiny bit of peanuts and then just start increasing it over time, because this very small amount, there's not usually a reaction or as much of a reaction.
Right.
So if you do it slowly and you build up over time, they become immune to it, even if they have the allergy.
Right. It's crazy. Peanut allergies began to decline in the U.S. after guidance first issued, blah, blah, blah. To start as early as 4. That's remarkable, right? Said Dr. David Hill, an allergist and researcher at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and author of a study published Monday in the medical journal Pediatrics. Hill and colleagues analyzed electronic health records from dozens of pediatric practices to track down diagnosis of food allergies in young children before, during, and after the guidelines were issued. I can't actually come to you today and say that there are less kids with food allergies today than there would have been if we hadn't implemented this public health effort, he added. About 60,000 children have avoided food allergies since 2015, including 40,000 children who otherwise would have developed peanut allergies. Still, about 8% of children are affected by food allergies, including more than 2% with a peanut allergy. 8%? See, those numbers are way higher than what I grew up with, or I have recollection of.
Yeah.
That sounds really, really high.
Yep.
Peanut allergy is caused when the body's immune system mistakenly identifies proteins in peanuts as harmful and releases chemicals that trigger the allergic reaction and trigger allergic symptoms, including hives, respiratory symptoms, and sometimes life-threatening anaphylaxis. For decades, doctors had recommended delaying feeding children peanuts and other foods likely to trigger allergies until age 3. But in 2015, Gideon Lack of King's College London published a groundbreaking Learning Early About Peanut Allergy, or LEAP trial. This wasn't groundbreaking. You just went back to the way things used to be for, what, 10,000 years of human history?
Yeah, it's exactly
You're
what it
not
was.
being groundbreaking. Lack and colleagues showed that by introducing peanut products in infancy reduced the future risk of developing food allergies by more than 80%.
Wow.
So what I've been thinking about is the whole concept of what a vaccine should be, and it's supposed to be a tool or medicine administered to us early enough in life to inoculate us against diseases like polio.
True.
So
supposedly,
this is just exposing people to penis is just a small form of a vaccine, is it not? In a way.
In a way,
it's kind of similar. I mean, I don't necessarily. The technique is whether or not it may work differently, but the technique is the same, right?
Yeah, the concept is
the concept. Yeah.
The concept is rub a little dirt in your boo boo. It's no different. If you raise children in completely antiseptic environments, they're not going to have any resistance to anything they're likely to encounter in real life. So, yeah, go play in the mud and rub some dirt in it, and that works. Only about 20%, 29% of pediatricians and 65% of allergists reported following the expanded guidelines issued in 2017, surveys found. Confusion and uncertainty about the best way to introduce peanuts early in life led to the lag, according to a commentary that accompanied the study. Early on, medical experts and parents alike were questioning whether the practice could be adopted outside of a tightly controlled clinical setting.
Really?
Yes.
Seriously?
Give them a little peanut butter. I mean, this is.
What's the worst that happens? You take them to the hospital, right?
Right. And they get a shot, and it's going to be much worse for the kid because they don't like shots. The data for the analysis came from a subset of participating sites that may not represent the entire U.S. pediatric population. This whole story is overthinking something. We told parents not to give them to protect your kids from peanuts, and kids developed allergies. And then when we said, give your kids peanuts a few years later, and they did, and the amount of allergies went down. the parents have forgot how to do simple things,
right?
Like introduce new foods to children, and it's just insane. It's craziness, and I cannot imagine where we're going to be in another 10, 20 years. I think I really witnessed, I witnessed both ends. I mean, I remember going outside, and we lived on a farm, and the fun thing to do was get your toy trucks and take them out and make a mud puddle and make mud and build roads and all kinds of stuff like that. I remember I must have been about 4 years old, but I had developed this. My dad was out in the fields, and I had made this huge hole, and I had filled it with water, and I was filling it back in with dirt to make a lot of mud. And then the last thing I did when I must have been 4 years old, I found that if I grabbed some dry dirt and tossed it over this pile of mud, it didn't look like mud anymore. My dad was not at all happy.
I'm sure he wasn't.
It wasn't deep, but it was deep enough that he tripped and fell in it.
No.
Yeah.
Funny.
I was always cooking up some idea. 603-283-6160 is our number. Give us a call. We'll be back in just a moment on Free Talk Live.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible, and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their Chainlocks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at Dash.org. Big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit Dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This week, the US government set a new record, the longest ever recorded in US history. On Friday, thousands of US domestic flights were cancelled or delayed. The White House ordered a reduction of air traffic. Trump administration officials said the move was an attempt to relieve some of the pressure on air traffic controllers. FSN's Iris Spitzer sent this report from Washington.
Air travelers in the U.S. are bracing for more disruptions from the government shutdown as Trump administration officials say they're planning to cut flights by as much as 10% on domestic routes. Meanwhile, there are reports that the Republican-controlled Senate is preparing for another vote on a stopgap spending measure on Friday, although a meeting by a group of Democratic senators on Thursday didn't yield any obvious change in position. The opposition party has demanded that Republicans extend health care subsidies that are set to expire, which GOP lawmakers have so far refused to do. At 37 days, the current shutdown is already the longest in U.S. history.
This week, the U.S. Supreme Court appeared skeptical of President Donald Trump's power to unilaterally impose tariffs during a 3-hour hearing. The hearing at the country's highest court came after the president used a law designed for national emergencies to justify his sweeping economic agenda. New York City elected a new mayor this week, 34-year-old left-leaning Democrat Zohran Mamdani. He'll be the city's first Muslim mayor and the youngest in a century. Mamdani beat the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, and the former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity.
The world's richest man, Elon Musk, was this week awarded a pay packet that could be worth nearly $1 trillion. Shareholders at Tesla approved the record deal for the firm's founder, but it's conditional on Elon Musk hitting ambitious targets. City AM's editor Christian May says they won't be easy to reach.
He has to take the value of Tesla from $1.5 trillion today to $8.5 trillion in value by 2035. And he must sell tens of millions of vehicles and deploy 1 million robo-taxis and all sorts of new metrics.
Former US President Dick Cheney died this week at the age of 84. He was widely seen as the architect of George W. Bush's war on terror following the 9/11 attacks in 2001. Israeli aircraft bombed several towns in southern Lebanon on Thursday as Israel threatened wider strikes unless Hezbollah is disarmed. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Russia's President Vladimir Putin summoned members of the country's Security Council this week to discuss options of possibly resuming nuclear weapons tests. It would be the first such move by Moscow since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. It comes after US President Donald Trump suggested that the US would restart its own atomic tests. Ever since Daria Bundarchuk sent this report from Moscow.
Vladimir Putin gathered top officials for a Security Council meeting, instructing them to draft proposals on restarting nuclear weapons tests, a practice Russia has abandoned since 1991. The Kremlin spokesman later clarified that no deadline had been set and that Russia will act only after fully understanding U.S. intentions. Putin's directive comes days after U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement that the U.S. would resume its nuclear testing program. Russia has recently conducted tests of nuclear-capable delivery systems, including the Burevestnik cruise missile and the nuclear-powered Poseidon super torpedo. Daria Bondarchuk, Moscow.
The Chinese fast fashion giant Shein says it will collaborate with a French inquiry into the selling of childlike sex dolls on its website. The controversy came just a day before Shein this week opened its new flagship store in Paris, from where FSN's Ross Cullen sent this report.
The Asian e-commerce giant pledged on Tuesday to cooperate fully with judicial authorities after French prosecutors opened an investigation over the sale of childlike sex dolls on the platform and also rival online retailers AliExpress, Temu and Wish. The investigation is for distributing, quote, messages that are violent, pornographic and accessible to minors. Shein's spokesman in France said the company was prepared to share the names of those who have bought the products, adding that the purchase of the childlike dolls was serious, unacceptable and intolerable. And there have already been demonstrations against Shein outside the location in the centre of the French capital.
And that's the Week in Review. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
After years of weekly meetings with his psychologist, local man Chris Vaughn told reporters today he was excited to only have 2 sessions left before completely resolving all of his emotional issues and never having the need to return to another therapy session again.
When I started therapy, I knew if I could make it through exactly 120 50-minute sessions with Dr. Warner, then all of my issues with depression and crippling anxiety would be gone. Next week, we're covering my parents. The week after that, we're wrapping up my trust issues, and then I should be good to go.
According to Vaughn, it took 40 sessions alone to fully resolve his feelings of inadequacy and low self-esteem resulting from an unhappy childhood. Vaughn's therapist, Dr. Susan Warner, told Onion reporters that she's pleased with her patient's progress and relieved that his long-time emotional and cognitive issues are nearly solved for good.
I told him that getting healthy would take at least 100 hours of therapy, and now he'll never have to see me again. Thank God for that. That guy was a real piece of work.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is the number to call. Thank you for joining us for hour number 3. We've been all over the board tonight. We've talked about the Declaration of Independence, talking about the grievances and seeing if they still apply. I think the general consensus among us is that a lot of those grievances that they had with the King of England still apply today. We have the same grievances with Washington.
It's because nothing has changed.
No, nothing fundamental has changed other than we now have a top income tax of 37%. And let's see what else. We're at war constantly for kids born, for millennials. They have not known a world without war, without the U.S. being involved in wars. We now have our government going after, foreign nationals with the Navy, blowing
people out of the water,
blowing fishing boats up and
in the
killing
name of
people.
fighting the drug war.
The war on drugs.
Which, by the way, isn't a real war.
It's a fake war, and people keep falling for the fake war. It's a psyop.
It's not only is it not a declared war, it's not a war.
It's just a slogan that there is a war on drugs that we have been fighting since 1971. And I think we're well past the time when we should say that drugs won.
For sure.
If this is a war, we've spent more than $1 trillion as a country doing this war on drugs that is unwinnable. It's never going to stop.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about real quick about the solutions, some of the solutions, and obviously being reliant on government to solve these problems has not worked. So I know, Chris, you have been part of the solution to some of the money issues, right?
I've tried.
With cryptocurrencies and gold backs. Just today, I spent Monero for lunch, I believe that was wait, it was yesterday. Sorry, it was yesterday now. But yesterday I spent Monero for lunch, which is a cryptocurrency that's not government based.
No, and it's actually pretty anti-government. The government hates Monero. Yeah. They think it's too hard for them to trace.
Monero is basically a non-government form of a digital currency, meaning it's not. It's like cash, basically. So like cash, it can't be traced easily, and somehow because
it's essentially digital cash, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's like digital cash.
Yeah, government doesn't like that.
Yeah, the government does not like that.
They want to track and trace every transaction you make.
Yeah,
because they're insane.
Some people, and unfortunately, we've all been brainwashed. Well, I shouldn't say all of us. Some of us are a little bit too old at this point, but people my age and younger have been brainwashed into plastic. And that by plastic, I mean credit and debit cards sliding,
they're really convenient.
Sliding to make payments.
Yeah,
and this is a system of tracking. And I saw it happening. When I was in high school, they implemented a system where you could no longer pay cash. Or no, wait, you could pay cash, but you had to swipe still. So you had to swipe to ID yourself to the system, which talk about privacy implications, right? But what did you do? What could you do about it? I mean, I guess you could still bring your lunch at that time period, but
this was in your school?
Yeah, as my high school, you had to swipe because there might be some allergy or some safety reason, we can't let you buy that.
Yeah.
I mean, you think a high school kid,
probably a lot of peanut allergies.
They could make their own decisions as to what's dangerous or not, buy the peanut butter or whatever, right? But and I saw it then. I'm like, why do you need me to swipe my ID in order to buy lunch? Like, why do you need to keep track of this?
Yeah,
it was. I'm not paying with it. Like, fine, it's an option for payment, but like, I'm not paying with it, so why do I need to swipe? And that is sort of the start of it. And they just build up over time, and they train kids they trained kids literally from school nowadays to pay using a digital means that they can track. And that's what your credit card is. That's what your debit card is. This is why I am very resistant to using, credit and debit cards, just because it's a tracking mechanism.
The one thing you can say, and this is a common criticism of cryptocurrencies, it's really difficult. Well, if I come into a place with my debit card or my credit card, I can just tap on the screen and
or
boom, I'm paid.
Machine,
Right, slide whatever, it's done. It's simple. So that is the common belief. It's quick and easy, and your money's secure when it's not.
No,
it's not secure at all. It's being held by a third party.
Yes.
With cryptocurrency, it's held by you.
Yes.
If you do it the right way.
If you do it the right way and you have the keys to your wallets.
If you're a responsible individual, it shouldn't be a problem.
And here's the example I gave, and I was even talking about it last time Riley was in, because he was paying for lunch with cryptocurrency.
Yes.
This is particularly interesting to me because, Riley, if you don't know, he's blind. He does not see well. Or at all.
A little bit of light in the one eye, maybe you can see.
Maybe if
sort
I'm
of.
lucky.
I don't know if you can see call that vision, but
yeah.
But here's Riley with his smartphone. This is a blind dude. Keep this in mind. Who's paying me in cryptocurrency for his lunch, and this goes through. This is amazing. The fact that even a gentleman who has no sight can do cryptocurrency transactions. That should tell most of America that this really isn't that difficult. If Riley does,
it's not. If someone the most difficult part of the process is scanning a QR code.
Right. And if I show your phone a QR code, if I want to get paid, there's part of this that I have to do too. It's no different between you and Mr. Penguin. I have to show Mr. Penguin a QR code that says, send me money to this address and for this amount of money. I show this to Chris, to Mr. Penguin. I also show that to you. Now, the difference is, like if I were unscrupulous, I could send you an invoice for some ridiculous amount of money, which I only did once, and that was by accident.
That's actually not something that's okay. So it's easier. So cash and credit card is actually worse for Riley because he'd be more easily deceived than with the crypto.
That's probably
with the crypto,
true.
He can read off the amount on the screen that you've sent him.
Yes,
and so he was actually, it was actually his own how do I say this, failure or undoing, because he didn't take the time to actually go through it carefully enough to read the number off the screen before he hit the send button.
How much?
So it's not entirely you.
And of course, I made this right. What was it like? I charged, it was supposed to be like $8.82.
Yes.
And I sent you an invoice for $882.
I don't know if it was you sending me an invoice or somehow the Dash app got messed up and sent more money than it should have.
No, I think it was me not being...
No, this sounds like a Chris problem, and Riley, you weren't paying close enough attention. But here's the thing. Riley has been you're so reliant on trust. Like you have, I mean, as somebody who's been blind, you've been forced to trust people, for your entire life.
Yes.
And it's like, and I think most people are probably honest with you, but like, it's not that hard to potentially deceive you. But with the cryptocurrency, it's actually harder to deceive you potentially, as long as you take the responsibility of checking before you hit the send button. And what's what's also been amazing to me about the whole process is it's easier for you to use the crypto than it is for you to use cash. And I've noticed that you always use the credit card or the crypto over the cash, which I think is really entertaining. And it's obvious why. It's because it's easier.
Yes, much easier than carrying cash around and trying to identify bills. And
right.
that.
And that's the thing. Like, it's the bills in the United States. So people who are not blind out there, and by the way, I'm not blind, but I have a I've been around a blind person long enough to realize some of this stuff. Anyway,
we've been around each other for 2 years, so I think you're learning some things.
Oh yeah, right. So like if you feel the bills, like you can tell them apart, I think a little bit, but it's hard. It's really hard because
if I fold them a certain way, I can tell them apart.
Yeah. So, but basically the if you compare this to like European bills, they're like different sizes. So like it's easier to do in Europe, but in the United States, it's really difficult to use cash to pay for something as somebody who's particularly as somebody who's blind.
So do you go by tactile indicators on certain bills? Like 20s, I know that if I run my thumb down the lower left-hand corner, I can feel roughness. That's part of the bill.
So if I'm handed a $20 bill, I usually fold it a certain way and put it in my wallet in a certain place so I know what it is.
Okay.
But how do you know it's a $20 bill in the first place?
Well, my phone has apps that will read dollar bills off to me and say, oh, this is a $20 bill.
I think the thing is, Riley's doing it using the more modern methods, like some of the more modern methods and tools. But like I think somebody who's blind back in the day would have done more along the lines of what you were doing with the feeling it.
Right, but those things never existed until recent years. I mean that little part of a rough 20, that's a new invention.
Right. That's true. Yeah. But I think also partially that Riley, how old are you, Riley? You're probably in your close to your 40, right?
I'll be 40 in March.
So some of this stuff he's never been taught because like he went to school, a long time ago at this point. So he would never have been taught this, even had this like that's the kind of thing that came into existence after he was gone through school. So this is not were you aware of this, Riley, or is this something you're not even aware of?
I wasn't aware that there's a certain texture to a $20 bill.
Yeah.
And I think it's all maybe you can Google that, but I know that to the left of the portrait of the president, on the lower edge of the bill, there's generally a rough spot in the higher ones. It's a series of ridges that you can feel. Like when I get a bigger bill in my business, I immediately just rub my hand down it to see if that's there. That's my first check to see if it's possibly counterfeit.
Yep. Yeah. So the other thing is Goldbacks. That's another thing that I believe you've used. And
yes.
Goldbacks are also easier than cash to identify, correct?
Yes and no. Like if I'm handed a half and a one, it's hard to tell them apart because they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
Isn't it half the size?
Not really.
Well, it's half the weight.
Half the weight. Okay.
But the size is maybe a smaller difference than what sounds like a lot when you're talking about one half the weight.
Yeah, understood. I understand it's still a little bit difficult to tell them apart, but like you can definitely so I'm not blind obviously, but I could definitely see them that they're different sizes and weights and things, and it might also be, Riley, that you haven't used the Goldbacks enough. Like I know you use crypto a lot, but
that's entirely possible.
I haven't seen you use the Goldbacks as much. So I'm guessing this is something you'd probably figure out given more time. If you play with it a little bit more, but yeah, I mean, yeah, unfortunately, this is, but yeah, I mean, like but this is anyway, the whole reason we're talking about this is because there are things you can do to, sort of, fight back against, this federalism basically.
Right. And the reason why I wanted to learn how to send crypto and receive crypto is because, Free Talk Live has been talking about crypto. I wanted to learn all about it and learn why it was valuable. And they're talking about, hey, you got to have your own wallets and your own seed phrases. So I got that set up. I had to find an accessible wallet for me at least.
Yep. And you also are you are the person who does the Free Talk Live Digest, right?
I am.
Yep. Yes. And there, I believe you can donate if you go to freetalklive.com. There's a Bitcoin address, or is it? I don't remember what addresses there are, but I believe there's cryptocurrency addresses. So if you want to,
there should be some cryptocurrency addresses. I don't know if there are in the file upload. I have to check. Sometimes I forget. I have been forgetting to put all the information.
It's okay, Riley.
Okay, well,
I just put my own crypto addresses up there, and trust me, you're getting lots and lots of money. Just kidding.
Anyway, yeah, well, definitely you should do that again and start that back up again, because I'm sure you were getting cryptocurrencies before, donations every once in a while.
Every once in a while.
So yeah, if you guys want to help with the help support the Free Talk Live Digest, that crypto does go directly to you, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, you can contribute that way as well. So those were two methods. There's a third, besides crypto and gold backs. There's actually a third way you can help fight federalism, and
with your money.
This is not with your money. Well, sort of with your money a little bit. But this only applies to a certain select group of people. If you're a libertarian, if you believe in freedom, you can move to New Hampshire.
That's a good point.
That's one of the biggest things you can do to fight federalism.
I moved to New Hampshire.
You did. You guys, both of you, all three of us did.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people who have moved to New Hampshire, and it's not a small thing. This is a huge thing. This is probably the biggest thing you'll probably do in your lifetime for most of us. Because obviously you guys sell your house, or if you have one,
uproot everything.
Uproot maybe your family. Depending
on
get a new job. Yeah, depending on what you do for a living. So I mean, it's huge, but it is making a difference. The Free State Project has, Free State Project, I believe. Well, actually, go to fsp.org, or Free State Project is what it stands for. But you can find out more there. But basically, tens of thousands of people have been migrating to New Hampshire, libertarians, for the purposes of expanding our freedoms over the past 2 decades or so now. And with one of the objectives is to work together towards maximizing our freedom, at least in one place, because spread out we can't do anything for freedom. It's a hopeless battle. We're not getting anywhere. But in New Hampshire, we have actually made huge progress over the past. I mean, we made huge progress over the past decade, more progress than we've ever made prior to that, in some respect, I think. And just in my time here, and I moved in 2016, we have gone, I don't remember exactly what the numbers were in like 2016 when I moved, but like there's been the number of reps, the House reps have increased. We have now 100 out of a 400 member House. That's about 25%. In the Senate, we had 0 until recently, and now we have 5 out of 24, I believe. So we have about 20%. That's absolutely huge. And
even if it's
that was just in the last couple of years.
Even if it's not majorities, what it is these are huge blocks of voters in the House and the Senate that cannot be ignored.
Oh, yeah. They send out, the thing that's amazing to me is we actually get in the mail basically propaganda against libertarians, against libertarian candidates, which is really crazy because it tells you who to vote for, and the things that they write that like you don't want to vote for these people. You don't want to vote for these people because they're going to reduce spending. Like, wait a minute, that's a good thing. What are you guys talking about? Like, right? Like, who is not in favor of reducing, spending? Right?
All of Washington D.C.
Yeah, D.C. is not in favor of it.
Right, but your average individual who has to pay this huge tax bill and is getting a huge chunk of their paycheck, they don't want that. They want to see less taxes, and so
but they want all the services.
Well,
that's the dichotomy.
This can be the case.
They want their cake, and
the thing with New Hampshire is that New Hampshire's always been a little bit more libertarian leaning.
Yes.
And it's with libertarians moving to the state, it's become more and more libertarian. Now, don't get me wrong, there's not much of a difference between a Republican and a Democrat, and there's not much of a difference still between a libertarian leaning state and a Democrat or a Republican state. Not yet. We're not there yet. Okay. We don't have, libertarians don't control, our New Hampshire House or Senate or the governor for that matter. We need kind of all three really to really have radical changes. But we do have influence, and we have been making a lot of progress over the last decade or so. Actually, 2 decades in some sense, because half the progress is really just getting enough people here to be effective, right? So some of the people we need to actually, thank, or I'm going to personally thank, having not been here for the first 10 years, are those people who moved early before we could see that this was actually going to work.
I just look at Mark and Ian. I mean, when did they move? 2006?
Yeah, it's pretty much, the people to thank are pretty much like Mark, Ian, and then like early movers.
Yeah.
And like, that's it. Like that's like 95% of the thanks needs to go to like,
to them.
Yeah.
Because they inspired us to make the move. And I just look at Free Talk Live. Of this, I take no credit whatsoever. I was just a Republican. A small government Republican. Well, it was infuriating.
I wouldn't say that. I think you should give yourself a little bit of credit, but it's probably more like the 5% credit, not the 95% credit.
I'm going to say the any credit I deserve is after I moved.
Yeah,
but
course.
the idea that, you know, I was a Republican in, you know, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, but not happy. I was just constantly frustrated because, you know, all I knew about libertarians were, one, they never get elected, and they believe in crazy things like, you know, there shouldn't be a war on drugs, and we shouldn't be going to war all the time. And yes, I knew as a Republican we absolutely needed to do these things. We can beat the war on drugs, and all this stuff made sense. It wasn't until I started listening to Free Talk Live, long before I moved up here, that I began to question my whole worldview. And it's like, wait, this isn't right. I should be with these people. These are the people that can actually do things. And
These
after
are the
I
people
started
who are
listening-
doing things.
Right.
Yeah.
But when I first thought of New Hampshire, I started watching some media. Like, one of the first things I ever saw was Derek J's Victimless Crime
Oh,
Spree.
yeah, me too.
And I was just like, that is so great. These guys are actually doing things.
If you like Free Talk Live and you haven't seen Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree, stop listening.
It's a great movie.
Go
You
search
should
for
definitely
Derek
watch it.
J's Victimless Crime Spree online. It's free. It's on YouTube. It's on a dedicated site as well, I believe.
And you can torrent it.
You can torrent it for free. And not only that, if you want to buy a DVD copy, I think there's still DVD copies you can buy
Probably.
from libertyminded.com. So, but yes, this is absolutely the best recording tool for like the Free State Project ever, or it should be, because Derek gets so much credit.
Well,
Derek and Ian both get so much credit for
And
that.
there's other things too, you know, 101 Reasons movie, 100 Reasons to Move to New Hampshire. I mean, it's dated, but it's still valid.
I'm sorry, I could not stand that film, to be honest. But the Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree, oh my God, yes, go watch it. It is so entertaining. It's so entertaining. And like, if you're not sold yet from Free Talk Live, you will be once you watch Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree.
So this is a good story. A good friend of mine, he's a customer at my store, and he comes in all the time, and we shoot. I can't say what I was going to say we were going to shoot, but we talk all the time. And he came in one day, and he's like, he knows my lack of politics and the type of people I associate with, mostly free staters and libertarians. And he came across 101 Reasons You Should Move to New Hampshire.
Did he really?
He did. And this is a normal guy. I don't know what his politics are. He's like, I just watched this. How many people do you know in that movie? I'm like, I have to watch it again. I think about 99% of the people.
Yeah, right.
603-309.
603-283-6160.
Thank you, Riley.
603-283-6160.
We got to switch hosts.
Exactly. This is Free Talk Live.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp, is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This week, the US government set a new record, the longest ever recorded in US history. On Friday, thousands of US domestic flights were cancelled or delayed. The White House ordered a reduction of air traffic. Trump administration officials said the move was an attempt to relieve some of the pressure on air traffic controllers. FSN's Iris Spitzer sent this report from Washington.
Air travelers in the U.S. are bracing for more disruptions from the government shutdown as Trump administration officials say they're planning to cut flights by as much as 10% on domestic routes. Meanwhile, there are reports that the Republican-controlled Senate is preparing for another vote on a stopgap spending measure on Friday, although a meeting by a group of Democratic senators on Thursday didn't yield any obvious change in position. The opposition party has demanded that Republicans extend health care subsidies that are set to expire, which GOP lawmakers have so far refused to do. At 37 days, the current shutdown is already the longest in U.S. history.
This week, the US Supreme Court appeared skeptical of President Donald Trump's power to unilaterally impose tariffs during a 3-hour hearing. The hearing at the country's highest court came after the president used a law designed for national emergencies to justify his sweeping economic agenda. New York City elected a new mayor this week, 34-year-old left-leaning Democrat Zohran Mamdani. He'll be the city's first Muslim mayor and the youngest in a century. Mamdani beat the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, and the former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity.
The world's richest man, Elon Musk, was this week awarded a pay packet that could be worth nearly $1 trillion. Shareholders at Tesla approved the record deal for the firm's founder, but it's conditional on Elon Musk hitting ambitious targets. City AM's editor Christian May says they won't be easy to reach.
He has to take the value of Tesla from $1.5 trillion today to $8.5 trillion in value by 2035. And he must sell tens of millions of vehicles and deploy 1 million robo-taxis and all sorts of new metrics.
Former US President Dick Cheney died this week at the age of 84. He was widely seen as the architect of George W. Bush's war on terror following the 9/11 attacks in 2001. Israeli aircraft bombed several towns in southern Lebanon on Thursday as Israel threatened wider strikes unless Hezbollah is disarmed. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is the number. Hey, there is still time for you to get on the air. We've got another half hour at least. Well, less than that. But we'd love to talk to you. And we've been taking calls all night. We talked to Skeeter, and he basically told us if we don't like living in the United States,
we can leave.
We should have left when we were 18.
So he was supporting our independence movement.
Yes, he is.
He was just saying that we should have already left. We should have left when we were 18
I agree. We
years
should
old.
have.
Right. If I would have known at 18.
I don't think he was supporting our independence movement. I think he was just telling us to move from the United States, and he would foot the bill for us.
Yeah, he was telling us to leave the United States, which we are through the independence movement. But
we would love to part ways. No offense to anything. If you like the United States, by all means, enjoy yourself.
Stay. Let the rest of us leave.
Right.
Want to leave.
And if
that's all we're asking,
people do choose. And one of the things that's always kind of, no state is 100%. Will ever be 100% secession. No state will get everybody to decide.
No
Texas
independence
won't.
movement has 100% support.
California
The United
won't.
States didn't come to existence with 100% support. A lot of people left the United States for Canada after independence and before independence.
Sure.
Like this idea that like you're going to have 100%, it's never going to happen.
It's never going to be.
The one difference though with the New Hampshire independence movement and other independence movement is we're not telling you that you can't support socialism. It's just private. It's you're doing it through private action and private agreement. So like for example, you can join a group for health insurance as an example. It wouldn't be called health insurance maybe, but it would do the same. It would have the same effect. Those people that are part of the group cover your costs.
Well, that's a libertarian ideal.
It is a libertarian idea, but it's still something that is socialism. It's a form of socialism.
And there's no guarantee that would be the way things are run after. If New Hampshire were to leave the Union, depending on what at that time our politics look like, it'll likely be very much business as usual. Would you disagree?
Oh, no, I think you're right. It's just because we become independent does not mean that, health insurance is going to disappear. Really what's most likely going to happen is where you're going to continue to see a lot of the same as before. And it not only does it require independence for a libertarian utopia kind of, obviously that's kind of a weird thing to say, but because it's
that is
not
what
real,
we do talk about.
Yeah,
that,
but
we know
if we want a libertarian utopia, it's not going to just be in New Hampshire independence. You don't get that with independence. What you get with independence is the greater control over certain laws that prevent us from doing things legally. And as an example, we can't form a group and contribute to that group to cover our healthcare costs right now because there's a law in the books that prohibits it. That would go away. And as a result, we'd be able to do those sorts of things.
We would hope it goes away. We would
we would work towards it. And,
right.
Yeah, right.
Just
and
like
we'd actually have the ability to because we'd have more control. Locally, libertarians would have more control over these laws.
Right.
And those are federal laws right now, guys. So yeah, and there's no reason that like that we even have these laws other than the fact that they were created, I believe, to benefit health insurance companies.
Of course.
And in fact, there's still a handful of religious organizations out there that have these group health care solutions. So it's not that it doesn't exist. What doesn't exist is a non-religious affiliated program that you can join to voluntarily contribute to each other's healthcare costs.
Wasn't there some Liberty Health? Maybe they folded or something. I thought there was something.
I remember something like that
specifically for healthcare.
Yes, I remember something like that being advertised on Free Talk Live at one point. I don't know whatever happened to them.
The point being, if New Hampshire were to exit the Union and we're no longer subject to federal laws and federal taxation, we would be a much richer people because we would not lose, and Friedman said this. He said, no matter what it is the government does, give or take some number, when government does it, it takes about twice as much money to get it done compared to the private sector. He said that's a generalization, but it's about double. It costs double. And a lot of people like to point out that, New Hampshire, it varies whether we're a giver state, meaning we give more to Washington than we receive, and sometimes we're a taker. We're kind of right on the cusp, depending on the year. But the point being, if we weren't sending money to Washington to pay for a $3-4 trillion budget every year, everybody in New Hampshire would be much wealthier.
Yeah,
maybe not much, but wealthier.
I think what you also have to remember is, we would be much wealthier not only because of that, but also because we would no longer be forced into a very expensive solution when it comes to healthcare, which in part is health insurance. The costs of not health insurance solution. And Mark Edge partook in one of the religious ones, and he's a Quaker.
I remember that.
But he said he was paying about half. He pays about half for his family what it costs for health insurance. So if your health insurance, and I don't know what you guys pay for health insurance, but I think I'm paying like $1,000 a year at this point, maybe even more with the changes. But if I'm paying $1,000 now and I have to pay $500, if I can switch over, that's a lot of money to me. And I don't know if $500 is a lot to you, but that's a lot to me.
The idea that, and as you,
that's a month,
as you get older and older, that number goes up and up and up.
Yeah.
The idea that, and we have this because of never mind. All this healthcare stuff got solved when we passed the Affordable Care Act back during Obama, right? No. After that law, and we're still facing it now, costs skyrocket for healthcare. And the point being, if we were no longer under the ACA, what would that do to just regular medical costs when it wasn't involved in all this government red tape and everything getting sent to Washington and money spent and sent back to the states? It would be a vastly different world. And that's not just healthcare. That's every aspect of our lives where Washington controls all commerce, where Washington controls all healthcare, all banking law, all.
So we can also look at other examples that the federal government hasn't taken over, just to see some of the things that New Hampshire has been able to do. That have
what hasn't the government? Federal government taken over?
Well, it turns out car insurance mandated by the federal government, not the state government. Or I'm sorry, it's mandated by the state government, not the federal government. So, and you might be wondering, well, you still have to have you still have to have car insurance, because what happens when you leave the state? Well, yeah, you're right. You do pretty much. So in New Hampshire, it's not required that you have car insurance, but obviously if you want to leave the state, you still need it. So, but the question is, what does that mean in terms of cost? Well, it means that we're one of the, I forget if we're the lowest cost for car insurance in the country, or we're one of the lowest, but it doesn't really matter. The point is, because we do not have mandatory car insurance, the car insurance companies have to compete with zero.
Imagine that.
Imagine how that impacts the price on car insurance in New Hampshire. Well, it makes it really cheap. I think I pay like $300 for 6 months of insurance.
So you can compare that directly to health insurance, which is mandated by law.
Right.
You have to have it.
Yep.
Which is why we have Obamacare.
Yeah. So, I mean, now you can kind of understand why it makes a lot of sense for states to have more independence. It's really easy to lobby at the federal level because there's a huge market. New Hampshire has a very small market by comparison. And it's harder to lobby. We also, one of the other things that's interesting about New Hampshire, and also probably other states should follow suit in this regard somehow, if it's even possible, but we have a very large House. We have 400-member House and a 24-member Senate. The House is the largest in the country. Try to lobby to 400-member Senate when you've only got 1.4 million people. It's expensive. Let me tell you something. And it's not anywhere near as effective. And if you look at some of the things that we've been able to do since libertarians moved to New Hampshire, Free Staters, we've been able to get rid of, so we used to have vehicle inspections in New Hampshire.
Almost, I think it's somewhere around 17 or 18 states still have vehicle inspections.
Yep. Well, right. So New Hampshire is not unique in getting rid of vehicle inspections. However, what is unique is that we overcame a very, very significant lobbying, one of the biggest lobbying groups in New Hampshire in getting rid of it. And that's, I think, telling to why it is important to have a sufficiently large legislature relative to your population in order to hinder this kind of lobbying by large corporations, basically to pass laws that are restrictive in order to keep out competition and drives prices, basically.
Yeah. So in Pennsylvania, where I moved from when I came to New Hampshire, I think we had about 100 people in the House. I'd have to double check that number, but it was right around there.
Yep.
And Pennsylvania has how many people?
I don't know, but it's
population.
huge by
It's one of the
comparison.
largest, population-wise, one of the largest states.
It's physically huge, and it's got a large population. It's spread out, but it's huge.
But you look at the representation. I know my representative represents about 2,000 people. My representative
in New Hampshire, you mean?
in New Hampshire,
yeah,
in the New Hampshire House represents about 2,000 people.
Somebody at some point in California said, "You mean?" Well, somebody said they represented 3,300 people, and he thought he was saying he represented like 330,000 people or something like that.
Yeah,
He was
because
like,
that's a
"Nope."
realistic number for California.
Yeah, 3,300. Apparently, 2,000. As low as 2,000 people you might represent if you're a house and a representative in the House in New Hampshire.
It could be smaller than that when you get up into the North Country where populations disappear. I mean, those guys. I mean, Hart's location has a population of like 25 people. They still have a rep.
Yep.
I don't know how many towns like that he represents or she represents, but that's the population. That representative may represent, 100 or a couple hundred people, and that's great. That's what we want. One of the problems in the United States is, the idea that the House of Representatives shall be representative, and they set a number like each representative shall represent no more than 35,000 people. And now you have places in California where one representative is representing hundreds of thousands of people. How do you get your voice heard if those are the numbers? And it's just math. You don't. Which is why people love their congressman but hate Congress.
Yeah, I actually know quite a few of our state reps personally, and so it's my biggest problem is thinking of laws, what should we put forward as far as bills to make things better.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but then we also have to focus on right now we have to work particularly hard still at getting them passed because we don't have control of even though the left and the right seem to think we have control of the state, we don't yet have control of the state.
No.
But we're getting closer every day. We do have a lot of influence though, that's for sure.
And we've got the numbers to, like I said, be a significant voting bloc in state politics, and that's a great thing. I remember when I moved here, some of the first people I met were state representatives.
Yeah. Yeah,
it was just crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. But yeah, and I can definitely tell you the people that I know, at least I have a heck of a lot more faith in than the Congress critters that go to Washington D.C. The people that are elected that I know are they're just ordinary individuals that are probably not going to be in the House for very long, maybe a couple of election cycles at best in most cases, I think. Some of them have been in it for a while, but even it's a thankless job, so
you basically get a stipend, you don't get paid a lot of money for it.
It's I think they get paid
That's not true. You get $100 a year.
Yeah, it's like $100 a year.
And you get free tolls.
So why do you know about the free tolls?
Yeah.
I think
you get
there's also
some driving allowance.
Yeah, there's a driver's stipend as well. But paying for gas is okay. That's I'm sorry, but I'm okay with that. To be honest,
hold on, we're going to pay $100 a year, but we will pay for your gas and for your tolls. How about that?
Yeah,
that's what a draw.
Yeah.
It's funny, the people that I talk to. When we talk politics, when I talk politics with my neighbors, what comes up is, what is the school budget looks like? What does that look like right now? Is it going to go up crazy? Is it going down? What are property taxes doing? What's the town budgets doing? Those are the things I talk to my neighbors about. We do talk about national politics, but it's almost as if we were talking about sports, professional sports. Are you voting for that team? Are you voting for this team? Because we realize that it really doesn't really impact our day-to-day life other than being a burden under left or right. We know that it's going to be burden no matter who's there.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say it's not impacting your daily life. But I know what you're getting at. The state government has more of an impact on you generally than the federal government does.
And
just
even
overall.
lower than that.
Yeah.
And real people know that what they can control. They just see Washington as something that they cannot control. They like to think they can.
Yep.
They like to think if they vote, red or blue, that they're going to make a difference, but they're not. And nothing has gotten better.
Nope.
We talked about the Declaration of Independence and the list of grievances that we had then. And here we are, 250 years later.
Same
We're
grievances.
no better off.
Different year.
And that's why I
Except
say
we also don't have a king to contend with. So I don't know why the grievances remain the same.
Well, we do have no king's rallies.
That's true.
That's true. So I don't know if you guys have heard about this story, but I brought in a story, and this is kind of funny. It's a grocery store kind of acting like a king.
Oh.
So this is a story from SF Gate. The title
Reputable
is
news source.
I think it's like San Francisco. It's probably reputable for like the area that it's coming from. But yeah, at this SF San Francisco grocery store, you can't leave unless you buy something.
I like that. So what, do you window shop and then say, okay, I'm going to go in, or do you just mistakenly go in thinking you might buy something?
It's like any other store, right? Yeah, and then find out, you have to buy something to leave. Well, let me read the story. It's really short. At the Safeway on San Francisco's King Street. Oh, that's really funny. It's also literally the name of the street it's on is King.
That is pretty funny.
You
Pretty
now
ironic.
can't leave the store unless you buy something. The Mission Bay grocery store recently installed new anti-theft measures at the entrance and exit. New gates at the entrance automatically swing open when customers walk in. So apparently you don't have to pay anything to enter. But they are set to trigger an alarm if someone attempts to back out. And if you walk into Safeway and change your mind about grocery shopping, you might find yourself trapped.
Oh, wow.
Another gate that only opens if you scan your receipt blocks the store's sole exit. During my Monday visit, I purchased a kombucha.
Sure.
I guess, and I went through the checkout. I have no idea what that is, but okay.
It's a drink.
Healthy drink.
Checkout line without incident.
I've bought some before.
No tech gates block the exit if you go through the line like normal. But for journalism's sake, I then headed back into the store to try going out the new gate. Sorry. While I watched some customers struggle with the new technology, my receipt scanned immediately. The glass doors slid open and I was free. But if, like this person on the San Francisco suburb recounted, I hadn't bought anything, my only means of exit would have been to beg the security guard to let me out. Yeah, so this is actually like a criminal. It's I'm trying to think what they call it like legally, but it's unlawful detainment. So if they had a reason to suspect you of shoplifting, they probably can legally detain you. But without that suspicion of a crime, that's kidnapping. That would be equivalent of a kidnapping charge. Now, that's not what when they charge you with kidnapping, the law doesn't say kidnapping itself, but that's what it is. It's also a fire hazard. Like it's a fire issue, right? Like it's a safety issue from that perspective. I don't know what, like, I can't imagine that this is going to be like as soon as a fire inspectors come around, like there's no way that this is going to be permissible. I can't imagine like I couldn't.
This is classic,
right?
This is central planning gone awry.
I couldn't reach a Safeway spokesperson for comment on the new gates before time of publication, but this is not the first time we've seen these sliding gates in San Francisco Safeway stores. In 2023, KPIX TV reported that Safeway stores in the Excelsior, I think, and the Fillmore neighborhoods, the Fillmore store has been since closed, has installed receipt scanning gates at self-checkout. So here's the thing. This is the interesting about this story, I think. Like, I understand the need for security, and like Chris, I think you're in a particular position to tell me what you think of this. because you actually have a convenience store, which convenience stores are known to be high theft and so forth. But I don't think this is the right way to solve the security issue. What are your thoughts on this?
I like our thieves shall be shot sign. That works well for us.
It seems like a more appropriate solution than kidnapping all your customers who don't want to buy something after they, peruse your store.
Want people to leave with a good feeling about coming in, even if they didn't buy anything. As long as they didn't steal anything.
Like they might come back another day and buy something, but they're not going to come back if you kidnap them.
Well, they'll still be there. Well, they'll we'll give them a free phone call. Call one of your friends who has some money, have them bring some money down so you can buy something.
Right.
That's horrific. But it's just unintended consequences. What starts out as a good idea. Hey, I know how we can eliminate shoplifters. Just say you have to have a receipt to get back out. Great idea. With the best of intentions.
Except
what could
if
go
I don't
wrong?
want to buy anything at your store.
Well, it actually gets kind of more entertaining because shoplifters can still leave whenever anybody else apparently leaves with and they scan their receipt. They can just follow them right out the door.
Yeah. Wow.
So it doesn't actually stop anybody from shoplifting. And like
changes how they shoplift.
Right, but it doesn't change them from being able to shoplift. It just Anyway, but there's so many problems with this that it's just it's just like unbelievable that like anybody would think this is a good idea. But apparently, so I was also reading somewhere that apparently this is like common in certain countries. And I just like this kind of thing blows me away. Like, why would you shop somewhere where the store treats
where you're assumed guilty?
Right, you're assumed guilty of shoplifting. When you're not a shoplifter, this is not a place I would go. And like I said, I understand the reasoning. And look, I have a business. I have a company, and we look to reduce not shoplifting because we're an online retailer, but we have fraud that we have to deal with.
Sure.
So I understand like making customers jump through hoops, and we do make customers jump through hoops if they pay with payment mechanisms that are prone to fraud, like credit cards and PayPal, as an example. But that doesn't mean that like sure, we're not going to ship a good if you don't respond to the email. If you ship to an address that's not your billing address, like we're not going to ship the goods. Fine.
Right.
But and yes, you have to jump through a hoop, but we're not preventing you from leaving the store, right?
This to me, again, it's best of intentions. I mean, whoever's in charge of corporate security has been tasked with reducing shoplifting. Here's an idea. Let's try it out. And it's going to be an epic fail. Hey, that's all we got for tonight, but thanks for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow night with another show, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We look forward to having you tune in. This has been Free Talk Live.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. Forkfest.party.